All right, we are live here finally on the Big Time Boiler podcast. Got my co-host Just Falcon back with us after a lengthy delay.
Happy to
Cole,
be
welcome
back.
back. Yeah, we kind of joked on this podcast last week that today's show might be either a very happy one or depressed one, and glad to say that it is a happy one after a 20-10 win against Minnesota in a bit unusual game. Purdue kind of Minnesota with the style, and we actually pushed them around for once on the offensive and defensive lines, which is again not always the case for Purdue in the Big Ten West. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, if you would have told me beforehand the score was going to be 20-10, probably just guessing, you probably would have guessed that's Minnesota winning that game. So, like you said, it's nice to see Purdue kind of win in a different style.
Yeah, I think it's also it's good for the season as well. You got to win in a couple different ways, and I think Aiden clearly is not 100%. I don't know if you would put a number on it, but to me, sometimes you got to trust your eyes, and he looked to be like 70, 75% at that. Plus, he was also, I think they had him padded up pretty good, so that has to affect throwing, I would assume. I wasn't a quarterback, and I've never had the vest he had on, but you have to think that affects mobility a little bit, throwing the football.
Yeah, I'm not sure about a percentage. It's hard to say, I think, but other than he was definitely not 100%. He was definitely not his usual self. So hopefully he'll be a little more healthy going into Maryland, and because I think we're definitely going to need more firepower from the offense against the Terps.
Yeah, and I guess before we get too further, some housekeeping, guys. If this is your first time with us, I will link. Actually, there should be in the comments already. Also, they'll put it under the video description. There will be a link to the Streamyard room, where basically you can enter it. You don't have to use a video. You don't have to use, camera. You can just use the phone if you want to. But if you want to be on video as well, feel free. You'll basically be in a waiting room, which looks like we got one waiting for us now with Caleb, which we'll get you on here soon, Caleb. And feel free to join us and talk basically whatever you want about Purdue football. But I guess we'll kind of do a quick recap. I'll probably have a different video with maybe some thoughts later on. But quick recap. It was really, we talked, I don't know, Cole, if you listened to it or not, but, we talked quite a bit about Devin Mockabee last week on the podcast, and I think we've said it for a few weeks now. Just again, the eye test, the it factor. He clearly has it. He makes moves that I haven't seen a Purdue running back make. Not seen a Purdue running back make in quite some time, and just his shiftiness. And even again, I think it was the spring game. They were saying that the defensive players were telling coaches, "Hey, this guy's really hard to tackle. You probably should play him a little bit more." And I think it's easy to see why. Every time he gets the ball, and he had a number, not just that 68-yard run. I mean, obviously that was very impressive, but he had a number going back and watching the highlights of 10-yard gains where he would get it, make one or two cuts, and basically turn something into nothing and get 10 yards just like that. Again, something that our other running backs can't do. Although Dylan Downing, again, had a really nice day. But I think, as you kind of said, offensive firepower, that's the only thing that's a bit concerning is – with Aiden not at 100%, and this is why this Maryland game is going to be so crucial in a good test. Can we keep up with a offense like Maryland, which outside of the Indiana State game, we've not exactly lit anybody up yet. The offense is not in full gear, but a weapon like Mockabee and Downing, that can help take this offense, to another step. And I also like them throwing the ball out of the backfield. I think that's something we haven't done enough. Maybe the last couple of years. Well, we did it with Horvath quite a bit, but now with Downing and especially Mockabee, when he gets and they don't really cover it very well. When he gets that, gets loose out of the backfield and Aiden hits him with that dump off, he can take it to the house or 10, 20 yards easily. So that was exciting to see. But I guess before we'll get Caleb on here in a second. But any other thoughts, Cole, before we kind of jump into it?
Yeah, I mean, with the Mockabee stuff, you could kind of see it building. The first couple of weeks of the season that, hey, like you said, this guy passes the eye test. This guy needs more touches. And he certainly delivered at the end of the game against Minnesota. And yeah, just those jump cuts that he was doing. I mean, I feel like you'd be hard pressed to find very many backs in the Big Ten, let alone on Purdue's roster, that could have made that same run and gotten 68 yards in that play. That was a pretty special run, I think, for him.
Dude, that's like Barry Sanders. I mean, seriously, that's like Barry Sanders, Reggie Bush type cuts he was making there. You don't see that very often.
Yeah. So it'll be King Daru's going to be out again this week, sounds like. But it'll be interesting to see kind of what the running back situation looks like the rest of the season, because I think Mockbee has certainly earned a pretty large share of the carries, and to your point, Downing's played pretty well too. So, really, I mean, Kobe Lewis didn't seem like he did a whole lot against Minnesota, but I thought he showed some flashes against FAU for the first time, because he hadn't really done much before that game either. But I thought he started to show some slipperiness to him. So who knows? Maybe running back can be a position of strength by the end of the season with some of these guys rounding into form. And against Maryland, that might be coming into play. If our offense isn't the same firepower, ball control comes a little bit more important, and keeping their offense off the field becomes important. So maybe we'll see emphasis on the running game this week. I'm not sure how Maryland lines up defensive stats wise, but
well, we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, with that, Caleb's been waiting patiently. So let's get him on the stream and see what he has to say. Can you hear us, Caleb?
Yeah, you got me.
We got you.
Gotcha.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for having me on. Good win. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm unfortunately I'm still one of those people that roots for all teams in my area. So I got Purdue, I've got the Pacers, and I've got the Colts. So generally, it's a pretty depressing lifestyle, a fandom. But I was actually thinking of how that game was very similar to if you watched any of the Colts Chiefs game, where it was just like we were winning the game, but you're like, man, our offense is really not showing us a lot. But just like looking back at it, it's a lot of those second half drives where when we do get momentum, it's almost always undone by a penalty like that. Yeah. Usually not the big ones like the late hit that we think about with Syracuse or stuff like that. Those are easy to remember. It's just I think Downing had a broken, like a breakout run to the outside, but a lot of times when you do that as running backs, there's a hold by the tackle, and I know we did that one time, and that kind of ended the drive. That incorrect face mask call by the line by Bow, I think that's how you say it, Bo, or however you say his name.
Yeah, Bo.
Got that face mask call, and anytime you get those 15-yard penalties on first down, I mean it's a miracle almost to convert those. But just looking back on it, I am someone who was hesitant buying into the hype with the Mockbee kid, and I'm still not necessarily where maybe you guys are, everything, and not because like he's a fake, or I'm not saying that. It's just a lot of the offensive line, stuff is basically going to dictate our running game. And that was the first game I can remember against a respectable D line where we punched the team in the mouth physically in the running game. That first drive, I was like sitting in shock, like, who is this team? We're just running it right down their throats. And, we really kind of disappeared for that stretch. I don't know if you guys remember any reasons why it kind of disappeared. It seems like sometimes Braum gets in these stretches where he talks about being devoted to the running game, but you guys feel like sometimes like his devotion to the running game is, all right, we'll run it on first down. It'll get 1 or 2 yards. And then it's like, okay, let's go back to the passing game. And a lot of times that just puts unnecessary pressure on our passing game. Have you guys kind of noticed that before in some games?
Yeah. And to your point, Caleb, I think the biggest problem right now, and this is kind of a cause or thing of concern, is those lulls you talked about. Purdue, I think all year now has not, and Brian Newbert said this multiple times in Gold and Black, Purdue has not stomped on the throat of its opponent. I mean, there's been so many opportunities where even that Syracuse game, you get another touchdown when they had 3 points. I think I can't remember exactly, would have been like 16-3. That game's probably over. In this Minnesota game, I was on a high. I was pretty happy with the result. But the more I thought about it today, and I'm still happy, don't get me wrong, but it's like, man, we should have blown those guys out. I mean, we should have won by, more than 10 points. But I mean, well, luckily it is early, and hopefully we can take care of that. But that's what I was talking about too. The offense doesn't seem to be clicking all the way. And again, I think I've heard comments too, is, Purdue's relying on its defense a little too much, and the defense has definitely stepped up. But yeah, I think for Purdue to take the next step, and I'm sure later on we'll kind of talk about the upcoming schedule, and it's not as good, but it's not as bad either, I think, is what we thought. And there's a lot of 50-50 games. And really, if you look at the results of all the Purdue games so far, they've all been close with the Indiana State game. So for Purdue to kind of make a little more wiggle room and kind of make these games less close. And I guess we're as a Purdue fan, we all know a lot of bad things can happen when we're in a close game. We need to find a way to spread it out, spread that lead out, and just score some points. So right now, we're not really doing it. And hopefully with Maccabee and Downing in the run game. And yeah, and Jeff Brom, I think he is a bit out of rhythm. It seems like for the last couple of years, that first drive is always spectacular. He's just got that down to a science, that script. And then, which maybe he needs to start scripting the whole game. I don't know. But it seems like we always go into a lull.
I mean, one guy that has kind of been talked up a lot preseason that I've never felt like Durham is as good as he was always pronounced to be. And it's not because he does certain things well, but you see, like has been an issue with a lot of our running backs, and why I think our running backs have struggled in recent is none of them just had any elite traits. They were just always kind of baseline at everything, which, it's Purdue. Why is a good running back going to come here? Honestly, like we have nothing to sell you on. Our line's not very great, and we really don't want to run the ball in the first place. So why would you come here? But like a lot of those lulls and those 3rd and 3s where it seems like when we're in those struggle downs and we're not getting it and we're not scoring points, I thought Durham would be more of a factor. And besides the Syracuse game, which everybody was like, he needed that, it was going to be built for him, and they focused on him, which was huge. And I think it's good for Aiden because I think he's so incredibly talented throwing the ball down the center of the field. But we really haven't done that a lot this year. And I think, and a lot of times we're talking about who's that second complement to Jones. Like, I'm always thinking in the back of my head, it has to be Durham right now. He should be the number 2 guy. And then the rest of the receivers, I think Sheffield has slowly been more of a focus in the receiving game, and he made some good catches. And you guys already mentioned it with the receivers out of the backfield, the running backs. I think, though, that last drive and some of those last few drives, we stopped doing the whole Aiden drop back and we'll look for a receiver 8-10 yards downfield. And we started being like, okay, let's get a 4-yard completion. Let's get a 6-yard completion. And once we got that first down, it literally, like a play later, we hit Jones for the 50 or the 35-yarder or whatever it was. And I just want to see Durham make a presence because, he's had one game, and I feel like the rest of the time he's not really stood out as you're expecting your 5th-year captain or whatever he is. I think that's been a big thing. Like he needs to start showing out and making big plays in some of these games when you're struggling. That's what tight ends are for, I think, especially.
Yeah, I would agree with that a little bit. I don't know if that's, so much of Payne's play or if it's just, kind of how it's been going so far with the play calling and stuff like that. Purdue did run they finally changed it up a bit and put 2 running backs back there, 2 back sets, which opened up the middle of the field, which they started going with Payne. And now with Downing and, Maccabee playing as well as they are, and even Kobe Lewis, I expect probably to see some more of those 2 back sets. And, if teams are hard pressing the line or, keeping everything in front of them, like teams have been against us, that's going to open up some things. But, yeah, I think Payne definitely is our number 2 option. And then I think, you hit it nail on the head with Sheffield. He's been pretty good this year. And I think he's our second leading receiver. I thought it might have been Rice, but for whatever reason, he's not on the same page with Aiden yet. I don't know if it's route running or what, but if he just can't get open. Sometimes it's hard to see too when you're not live at the game, which I haven't been to one yet this year, if these guys are getting separation or not, which I'm assuming they're not, or, Jones is the only one getting that separation. That's why Aiden's throwing to him. But
right.
Yeah.
I think some of it is the play calling as well. If you just watch the game, and I love Jones, he's been awesome. But you just watch the routes, and it's like he's getting all the good. Like if you want to say good route, this looks like a good play to have someone going deep. It's usually him. Like he's the one making the play that you're looking for on the play or whatever. So like that's where Aiden's supposed to go first. So it's not always like, why is he always throwing it to Bell or in years back? It's like, well, that's who you're supposed to look at first. And usually Bell's got good matchups and Jones has good matchups and makes things happen. But I think, yeah, sometimes with Rice, I think the more we can, be more respectable in the run game and deeper shots can be made downfield because teams can't just sit back in a 2 safety, deep, coverage. I think that opens things up for other receivers. But, I think in time, things like that can work themselves out, but your primary guys have to step up. Since you guys are kind of talking about the run game, I wanted to ask you, because I've always felt like, okay, if you don't have a Reggie Bush or even like an Akeem Hunt or guys like that with an elite speed capability, and I think Maccabee's got some good speed. I don't think I'm ready to call it elite or anything but he's got good enough speed. But I swear, every good run I feel like is generally either under center or in that pistol formation where we give our backs a chance to get downhill a little bit. Sometimes, when you're asking those guys to, hey, take it from the side of Aiden, and then you have to immediately stop where you're going and change direction to go upfield or says, I just feel like you're asking for, more difficulty getting yardage on that. And I mean, I'm pretty sure the big run at the end was out of the pistol and, just giving Maccabee some momentum going downhill, even if there is nothing there, right? With that momentum, you're more likely to fall forward and get 2 yards as opposed to getting knocked back and losing 2, which, just sets you back. But, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to the line. I mean, that hole that Maccabee had, even before you get to the awesome jump cuts he made, I mean, if he didn't make any jump cuts or anything, it was a 10-yard gain like nothing before he got touched. And that was just the line kind of setting a tone there that I think was pretty awesome on that last drive.
Yeah, I agree. Offensive line definitely deserves credit. And I would love to now people stop, people dropping the stigma that Purdue can't run the ball. They're looking at last year's stats. I think Purdue's shown they can at least be dangerous running the ball. Maybe people will stop saying that narrative. But Caleb, I appreciate you coming on. We'll kind of move on.
Hey, one last thing. I'll get off, but I want you guys to talk. I think a big thing too with the game last night or on Saturday, and then even the week before that, I think it's been totally huge. Jacob Wahlberg being infused into the linebacking core, just having a new playmaker in there, and I think it's kind of exciting having him. And when Graham gets back, having both of them, you have guys that I think can hit people, but also have a little bit more speed. No offense to our other linebackers, but you can see in the open field, man, when a running back makes a cut, our linebackers look, a little bit out of place. But I feel like he's a playmaker, and I feel having Graham not have to be the only playmaker in the front in the linebacking core is a huge lift that everybody was kind of wondering about this year. So I think that's been a huge thing too, besides, the running backs. I think Maccabee and Wahlberg have kind of been the 2 unsung stars, coming in here. So, but thanks guys for having me on.
All right. Thanks, Caleb. I'm glad he brought up Jacob Wahlberg because, that kind of escaped my mind. But honestly, if Jacob Wahlberg doesn't step up, we may have lost the last 2 games. I mean, he's been an absolute godsend at back, especially I guess with Douglas dealing with an injury. He's been one of those kind of. He reminds me of one of those Tiller linebackers that kind of came out of nowhere. That is just steady, kind of like a Nico Kudavides or a Landon Johnson, or even something like that. Good speed, good smarts, and he was kind of a guy. I think he's like a redshirt junior, right? So he's been here for.
I think it's his 3rd year in the program. So I think
is it okay? Yeah, I was thinking he was a junior, but yeah. So him stepping up, it has been absolutely crucial. And again, especially with Jalen Graham out, and now with Jalen coming back, that's just another. Now you have 2 pretty good linebackers on the field with either Douglas or Simi, and then OC Brothers, who's been pretty decent this year as well, much improved over last year. So, yeah, getting Graham back with Wahlberg is going to be very nice to say it lightly. But yeah, some housekeeping again. If you guys would like to join the show, I think I see somebody joining on here, but they've been dropped off a few times. If you guys want to join, you don't have to use your video like Caleb did, which we appreciate Caleb coming on. But you can use your computer as your microphone, or if you want to use your phone, you click on the link. I think you turn off the camera. You can just talk into it like a regular phone call. So, yeah, if you want to join the show, jump on. Don't be shy. But we've been talking a lot, Cole. Get some more thoughts out of you.
Yeah, I want to circle back to your and Caleb's discussion on the kind of the lulls with the offense, because to me that's certainly been the most, I think, disappointing thing of the season so far, is just the ability for the offense to go out and build leads and get that separation, and then not doing it. And you mentioned the Syracuse game. That was definitely, I think, the most prevalent of our games so far. They seemed like they had so many opportunities to get a drive going and get some points on the board, and they just could not, for whatever reason, which penalties often is the reason, they couldn't get it going. And I mean, you kind of alluded to it. We maybe got a little lucky against Minnesota. I mean, we definitely got 7 points back on the tipped interception, because you're not going to see that very often. The guy,
nope. You'll see Purdue maybe
right
do
through
that.
his hand. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's like a fumble out of the end zone sort of play. Like that's
that's a huge swing. Absolutely huge swing.
So, so Purdue maybe was a little fortunate there. So, they've got to be able to put that together and it seems like often it's the second quarter. That's a big problem. First quarter has been fine. I can't imagine we're going to have success against Maryland if we do not, have scoring drives, or at least moving the ball all 4 quarters with their offense.
Yeah, it seems like that's the next kind of almost last step this team needs to take to kind of really reach their potential. But we got a guest on, Josh Castle. Let's get him on.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys?
We can hear you. Yep. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I tell you what, man, O-line, defensive line last weekend was, absolutely phenomenal. Branson Dean, I believe. Is that one of them? Branson Dean?
Yep.
Man, he was all over the place. And Sullivan, I tell you what, he's making up big time from that big mistake he had up there in Syracuse. That dude's playing with a lot of heart. That's crazy. You hold those guys to 47 yards rushing or 64 yards rushing, which is quite insane. And I want to, everybody's talking about the Maccabee kid, and I actually know the Maccabee kid, and I've heard a lot of things about the kid, and they had a close scrimmage on in the fall camp, one of those Saturday close scrimmages they do, and Maccabee actually went for over 200 yards on our number one defense. And you see how Maccabee, see how our defense is holding Sean Tucker, and our defense is holding, all these other running backs. Folks, I think we got a real deal machine, in the backfield with Downing and Maccabee, because, both those guys have been, busting our number one D wide open in practice. So I would, as a Boiler fan, I feel pretty, amped up about, having a running game that's definitely going to open a lot of options downfield here shortly, once these defenses start adjusting, to our run game. So it should be interesting in Maryland, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Josh. The defenses right now pretty much have been daring Purdue to run and not giving, playing, not giving the passing game any opportunities. So this is going to change everything. It's
really going to bite them, and when I said Maccabee went for over 200 yards in that live scrimmage, Saturday close scrimmage to the public, one of those was an 80-yard house call, and the other one was a 70-yard gain. So the home run threat is there. So it's going to be interesting to see, how defenses adjust to us. But, hopefully AOC, you can definitely tell Saturday, man, he was all over the place throwing that ball. It was definitely not the AOC that everyone's used to seeing, man. What do you have, 2 picks? I would say he almost threw another 3 picks. So, there's a lot of times. Go ahead.
He did not look himself, I think.
Yeah, to me, it almost looked like his mind wasn't where his body was, sort of thing. Like he was the usual Aiden that we've seen makes those throws, and he was trying to make those throws, but his body's just not there right now. It was kind of
Exactly
what I thought.
Exactly. All right, I got one more thing, guys, and I'm going to get off. And it's back to our running backs again. At Purdue, they've been posting Downing, they've been posting Maccabee. Both of these kids are not on scholarship. So, at what point does the staff and whoever have to say, okay, guys, these guys, they're both ran over 100 yards a game. Their yards per carry is looking good. These kids are going to be up for free grabs come springtime.
That's a good point. That's not something I've thought about before.
Well, I'm sure I'm a little surprised that Downing wasn't on scholarship.
Nope.
Considering he had a pretty decent. I mean, I knew he wasn't, but I was, considering he had a pretty decent role last season, and I think
guys, and Downing plays a lot of special teams too. So he's a role player for that team, and it's kind of crazy that Downing isn't on scholarship. After last year, because he played special teams all last year, and he was back up. When Horvath got hurt. So
yeah, honestly, that's shocking. Yeah, that he wasn't put on there. That was kind of almost. We all thought it was going to be a given, but I don't know with NIL and stuff these days. I mean, maybe maybe they don't have to be on scholarship per se. However, I think that you get training table privileges and all that other stuff.
You still get all the you still get everything that a scholarship player gets, but you just don't get that, the big thing. You're going to leave Purdue with $100,000 worth of debt, student debt. So
well, actually, Josh, if unless things have changed, because my roommate was a walk-on Purdue football player when I was in college at Purdue, and walk-ons are actually not supposed to be at training table.
I think the NCAA changed the rules.
Okay.
Yes, the NCAA did make a change there. It's pretty crazy though. I mean, if these two kids, they keep producing how they've produced the last couple weeks, it's going to put a lot of pressure on that staff to, hey, we're going to have to do something because there's going to be other teams looking to poach these players from us.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be on. In fact, I think there's a scholarship that just freed up right now with Cam Craig.
Yeah, Cam Craig.
Going out. So I assume, Downey or Maccabee will get that scholarship if they can do that sort of thing. I don't know how that works, but
yeah,
I'm sure that's one that's going to them. Exactly. One of those scholarships will be, I'm pretty confident saying that the both will be on scholarship come the spring semester.
All right, guys, I'll leave you alone, man. Keep it up, man. I appreciate you guys doing this. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thanks. He mentioned the defensive line in our rushing defense, and that I've been we thought going into the season that the defense line was going to be a position of strength, and pass rush has been at times okay and at times missing, but you can't dispute how they've been playing against the run, at least with running backs. Quarterbacks can be a different story with Schrader and the FAU quarterback a little bit, but I mean they've shut down some pretty good running backs so far. I know Ibrahim wasn't playing, but his backups have been doing well too. And I'm not convinced Ibrahim would have had, he would have been good, but I don't think he would have had, 120 yards or whatever like that. I don't think that the drop off's that big between those running backs. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's been really, really impressive to see. I mean, Syracuse played, I think, Wagner this weekend, but Sean Tucker had like 230 yards. I mean, that's a lot of running.
Speaking of that Syracuse Wagner game, did you see what they did in the second half?
No, I didn't.
I didn't know this was possible. Off topic, but they actually went to 10-minute quarters.
Okay.
They agreed.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever happened in college football, but they actually played the second half instead of 30 minutes. They played 10-minute quarters. Well, I mean, instead of 15-minute quarters, they played 10-minute quarters.
They said, "We'll take the money and run."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, let's get out of here. But no, actually, some stats on that. Good segue. And thanks to BC Fanatic putting some stats on in the last couple of days. But so here are currently Purdue's national defensive rankings. The run defense is 22nd. Not surprising there. It's that good. Pass defense 55, total defense 25, and scoring defense 35. So yeah, really, The only things really to harp on the defense right now is the tackling in the secondary has been spotty. I think some guys are, even this Minnesota game, I think it was Kane that like just came flying in out of nowhere, trying to deliver a big hit and just bounced off the guy instead of wrapping up.
Yeah, and there was Reese Taylor that I think was expecting Kane to make the play, so he just kind of was watching. So yeah, the two of them were not on the same page there, and led to a big gain.
That seems to keep happening. Hopefully that gets cleaned up. And then obviously you kind of said the pass rush, which was pretty actually sneaky good against Minnesota. I don't think we blitzed a whole lot either.
No, yeah,
they were able to get some pressure to, Jenkins looked good. Scotty Humphich hasn't played as much lately. I think he might be hurt, but yeah, Sullivan, ever since that penalty against Syracuse has stepped up. And again, Wahlberg and the linebackers have really stepped up. So, which is, again, this is basically the 25th defense without Jalen Graham. So
yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, he's the best player on defense. So hopefully, I think Brom said he's I'm not sure what phrase he used, but it made it sound like he was probable or more of a game time decision this week. Whereas I think, last week at this time last week, we knew he wasn't going to play. So we'll see.
Brom words, I think that's about as probable as you can get out of Jeff Brom. When pretty much, I was kind of surprised he didn't play against Minnesota, but it sounds like he may have not practiced, or maybe they got him in late in the week, but they thought best to give him one more week. But he's going to be very much needed this season, and glad to have him back. Hopefully against Maryland. Again, that puts it again. We kind of some of your parts, you kind of sometimes, you have the weakest link out there. And when you have Jalen Graham coming in, that kind of, replaces that. If this is a Madden game and all those guys are rated 82, and then you got a guy that's a 68, take that 60, not saying we have a 68 guy out there, but take that guy off the field. That defense is that much better. So, and more fresh too, more bodies. So,
yeah. And I think that's been a huge reason why the defensive line has been so good, is because all the bodies we can throw out there. So,
yes, absolutely. 100%. They've, you can see guys stepping up, even guys like Brevard or Kappa. I think it's how you say his name. Even he's looked pretty impressive. Got a question from Ted here. And again, I guess before we get into this, if anybody wants to join the stream, the link is below. Again, you can do it like Caleb did, where we get your picture on the screen and talk via the computer. You can use the computer and turn off the picture, or you can use your phone and talk like a phone call. So the link is in the comments, StreamYard.com/whatever that is. Ted says, do you think that us playing a tougher schedule early in the year mentally prepared us for this game? You want to take that one, Cole?
Well, so we basically played, 4 legit teams, with Indiana State being the outlier. And if you just look at the way things went down, the first 2 games,
3.5, I'd say, but yeah.
Yeah. The first 2 games, the defense had a chance to seal the game a few times, I guess, and they couldn't do it. Well, I guess Penn State, they did until the very end. But what I'm trying to say is they couldn't get over that hump in those first 2 games. And then we saw against FAU, they came up with a play to end the game, the fumble by that Wahlberg came up with. And you got to think that mentally that was a little bit of a pick me up for them, saying, okay,
I think that was absolutely huge.
Yeah,
just the psyche of that. Yep.
We can do this. And then we saw how it played out against Minnesota. They got a 3 and out, and then they get a turnover.
That Minnesota situation, by the way, was almost the exact, very, very similar situation to what the Penn State game was. Defense makes a stop. Purdue gets the ball back. Instead of Purdue going 3 and out and punting, and the defense having to make another stop, and then the same thing happening, Purdue actually scores. I think I even tweeted about it. I said, this is the exact same situation as Penn State. We get the ball with 4 minutes to go. We have a lead. Yeah. Can we close it out? I think even your boy Osweiler said that in the broadcast. I think right when he said that, Maccabi went 68 yards. But Go ahead.
I was going to say, he called early on. He said, those runs aren't. I don't know how much of this had to do with this, but he was saying how those runs early on are getting just 3-4 yards, but by the end of the game that will pay off. And again, I don't know how much of that was due to the the body blow and the offensive line or whatever, but Mockamy really made a play at the end. So it turned out to be correct one way or another. So, yeah, and you couldn't help but start feeling those thoughts of this is like the Penn State game. This is like the Syracuse game during those lulls of the second and third quarter where it's like, man, we're just really letting them hang around. And, Purdue at the end of games is a real can be real dicey. So it was good to see them flip the script for sure. So I think now it's time to see the offense kind of have that mental pick-me-up of being able to put together 4 quarters in a game. Now that the defense, I think, is you got to say it's playing their best of the season right now. And I know it's only been 5 games, but they're coming off a real high the way they played against Minnesota.
Yeah, honestly, who kind of the football we're playing right now reminds me of a little bit is like not the current version of Iowa, but like Iowa when they had a decent quarterback with like Nate Stanley or somebody else where they wouldn't blow teams out, but they would score enough. And then, it seems like they kind of went on lulls and stuff like that. And then, their defense usually bailed them out. Was a much better version of today's Iowa. But
right, yeah,
I feel like with the schedule the way it is and the teams we're playing, if you want, and we've already had one Big Ten loss, and I think it's going to take at least, the Minnesota win's absolutely huge because now we have the tiebreaker against them. But, I don't see Minnesota losing more than 2 or one more game, maybe 2. But 6-3 might do it, maybe not. So, if we only lose one more Big Ten game, I think we'll make the Big Ten championship game. I really do.
I think 7-2 Purdue, yeah, for sure.
Yes, for sure. But I don't think you can play that many 50-50 type games where you're now in the same situation as Penn State, really all 4 games. So so if you look at it, the 4 games that we played that have been legit, as you said, FAU, the Penn State game, Minnesota game, and Syracuse game, we're 2-2 in those games. We could easily be 4-0. Heck, I guess you could technically say we could be 0-4, a little bit less than the Minnesota game, but so we're 50%. So if you keep playing games like that, it's going to be really hard to bat, a 6 out of 7 or even a 5 out of 7 sometimes.
Right, exactly.
You can't. So I think this might sound like a broken record, but this offense has to get on track, has to be able to build some leads when the defense is shutting people down. It's not overly explosive right now, but with this Mockabee and Downey, and us showing the ability to run the ball, hopefully that changes things. Hopefully that opens up the offense a little bit, and maybe Jeff Brom can throw a trick play in there. Seems like he hasn't done that in quite some time, except that terrible one he did against Syracuse when he was going to have Sheffield throw the ball or something like that.
Yeah, on those, it's like just don't throw an interception.
Yeah. Whoops. This guy's bigger. Oh, that's kind of better. I kind of like that. But another. I guess there's a couple topics we can talk about. But before we get to that, also, if you guys want to join the podcast and want to jump on and express any thoughts about anything Purdue football related, feel free. I will post the link to the comments, in the comments. You just click on that. It should take you into a studio. You just click add mic or add video, whatever you want it, and we'll put you on with us. But kind of an unsung hero I like to mention who had an absolutely huge catch on that first drive would be Paul Peferi, who continues to, be pretty serviceable out there. And that was a heck of a catch. He took quite a bit, pretty big pop.
That was a third down too, right?
It was third down. And if he doesn't make that catch, it's probably a whole different ball game. But I've seen many Purdue tight ends over the years or just receivers drop that pass after getting lit up like that. So Paul is he's becoming a decent receiving option back there. I even think they're putting him out wide. I think I've seen a few times as well.
Well, and he's you would think he'd be a candidate to be involved in a potential trick play with his quarterback background, but I guess you never know. Yeah,
unless his throwing motion was that screwed up.
Yeah.
And another unsung hero, Jack Ansell. I think still kind of like the running game narrative of last year, how he couldn't run the ball. Jack Ansell, who I don't think was as bad as people thought he was last year. He's improved tremendously. although he's had a few times where that ball's, went in the, 20-yard line, but he's
Yeah.
much improved.
Yeah, that was really the part where it was like, oh boy, this is Penn State, where he sent it into the end zone with however many minutes to go when we were up by 3. But again, the defense came through this time. So yeah, it seems like he's getting a good distance on it this year, where the 30-yard punts, we haven't seen those, thank goodness. But yeah, still the coffin corner, the inside the 20 is he's leaving a little bit to be desired there, but overall you got to be happy with the increased distance he's getting.
Yep, absolutely. So
speaking of special teams, it was good to see Finneran too get back on track after a couple of shaky kicks.
They're right down the middle.
Yeah, so he looks like he's back in the swing of things, which is huge. Definitely going to need him and this week and the coming weeks if we're going to try to make a run with the Big Ten championship.
Yep, absolutely. Well, with that, I guess I don't think either of us are Maryland experts. We thought they were going to be. Well, we both did. You predict a win in our season video? I think you did.
I predicted a win. My other loss was to Nebraska, which at this point, if we lose to Nebraska, then that's a bad day.
Yes, it is. I think I had this as a loss just because I thought Maryland could be scary, and so if we win this game, we're right on my track. What I thought we would be 4-2, but
honestly, we're better because you had us, I think, losing 2 Big Ten games, and at this point,
yes, I'm glad you said that because that Syracuse game, who cares? I mean, that's honestly, I think someone said it's a beauty pageantry on your record, but in the case of the Big Ten West, division, it means absolutely nothing. So if we had to drop a game, I would drop that game any day of the week.
Yeah.
Maryland's defense, I was a little initially. I mean, obviously we know a little bit about their offense, but I was a little bit concerned reading about their defense. But now, again, more numbers from BC Fanatic. It's not as impressive as maybe I thought. Their run defense is 67th. Pass defense is 97th. It was not good. Total defense 84th. Scoring defense 39.
Yeah, that's the number that kind of stands out, is how can you be so bad in all the other ones? But then that's 39. That's a pretty respectable number. So I would assume that means the red zone defense is pretty strong. And Purdue's been pretty good in the red zone this year.
Purdue's been on fire.
Unlike last year, which has been a great improvement. So that will be a key to watch for sure if Purdue can get the better of them in the red zone.
Again, let's see. So Maryland started out the year with Buffalo at home. They won 31-10. Played a terrible Charlotte team, won 56-21. Played SMU, who is now losing all their players, it seems like, to sitting out and waiting for the transfer portal, which I don't think SMU is very good, obviously, if that's happening. They won that game 34-27, and I believe I was following along on my phone, whatever, for Yahoo for that, and I think they were actually losing most of that game.
Yeah, it was back and forth. Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I was doing the same thing, and it wasn't a clear-cut win for them. Yeah,
and then Michigan, obviously, who now is I have to look at. Has Michigan really, besides the last 2 weeks, they've not played anybody, right?
No, they played like Hawaii, Colorado State, and maybe UConn to start the year. So
so terrible teams.
Yeah.
So they won. They only won 34-27 against Maryland, and they just beat Iowa. I don't remember the score, but they won by 2 scores maybe.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they do, and then obviously Maryland wins 27-13 against a pretty bad Michigan State team. So I think this is a big game. Obviously, again, I think Maryland's got athletes on the outside. Supposedly has some speed at the secondary too, but their numbers aren't exactly showing that right now. But if Purdue, again, I feel like, this might be one of those games where just like every game this season, it's a, 10-3, 14-7 game, and Purdue's got the ball. They have to capitalize because Maryland, that seems like the team that can score in a somewhat of a hurry, kind of like, a Purdue offense of old. Or we haven't really seen that yet quite this year, but they can score in a hurry. This is going to be a game where it's imperative to get up by 2 scores and have that defense, pin their ears back and the offense now with that running game improved, able to milk some of that clock and get down the field and tire that defensive out.
Yeah, I think they've got really talented group of receivers. I think their running backs are young, but they've shown pretty well, especially in that Michigan game. So yeah, you'd hate to get too far behind against them, because you might not be able to keep up. So, but at the same time, whatever, I can't remember what his name is. Tua's brother, he has kind of shown a tendency sometimes to throw a lot of picks. So if we can get after him with just our main 4 linemen, that will be huge. Get him unsettled, because he can run a little bit, but I don't think he necessarily wants to run.
Well, I don't think they want him to run a whole lot either because he's pretty fragile. I know he gets hurt quite a bit. Got hurt against Michigan. I don't know if like I said, I think he can run a little bit, hurt you with his legs, and but not exactly a guy they want to run like Schrader did against Syracuse, where they basically try to kill that guy. He took so many big hits. I'm surprised he didn't stay out longer. But quick stats on their offense. So their pass offense is 19th. Although passing yards per completion is only 76, rush offense 52, total offense 22, and scoring offense 38. Comparison with our offense, we're 26 in pass offense, passing yards per completion. This is actually the number I'm about to say might be surprising, but maybe not. 118th passing yards per completion. Rushing offense 85. Total offense 53rd, scoring offense 55th. So not too far away from Maryland. And Purdue has obviously played well. See, Maryland's played Michigan State now. Michigan, we played better competition than Maryland for sure.
Yeah, through 5 games, I would say so. So you mentioned the yards per completion. I guess that isn't totally surprising when you think about the number of big plays Purdue's had this year, or I should say maybe the lack thereof in the passing game. That's been kind of just the receivers and to some extent Durham. He's been okay this year, but really there's the receivers outside of Jones. There just hasn't been that big play out of them this year. Charlie Jones had a big 40-yard or 30-yard whatever catch on the game-winning field goal drive late in the fourth quarter. So that was a big play that we needed there. But I think that's a lot of times we're not seeing these. We're seeing these lulls because we're not getting that big play that we need, so that we're not having to do these long sustained drives where we end up committing a penalty at some point and then boom, it's dead. So again, this Maryland defense seems like it's a prime opportunity for the offense to break out and for us to see some of those big plays, especially out of our receivers. So I think we're gonna need to see that.
Yeah, we're gonna need to see another receiver step up again. I think Sheffield has, but he's more of a slot guy. Need another deep threat to come out. It'd be really nice if Elijah Cannon wasn't hurt. I don't know what's going on there, but very limited tape on his Purdue career so far. But man, that Penn State game, he showed the ability to make a move and tall body and get down the field. And again, I think Yassine, who again limited tape, but has shown a proven connection with Aiden O'Connell in that Illinois game last year, where I can't remember how many. He had quite a few yards, I think, even maybe 80 or so. But love to get him back on the field. I don't think we've gotten any updates on them here lately, except they're out, which is never usually a good sign from Brom.
Yeah, it seems like Thompson, of the two of those guys and Thompson, it seems like Thompson's the closest one to coming back.
Yeah, which is weird because last week he said he might be out a while, and now he's saying he might come back here soon. So we really need Brock Thompson. We need a healthy version of Brock Thompson, or a close to 100% healthy version of Brock Thompson. I think this team is missing him more than I thought they would.
Yeah.
So again, if you guys want to join, anybody wants to talk Purdue football, the link is in the comments, the StreamYard link. Come on, you can show your face or not show your face. Would love to have somebody on and Hear your thoughts on Purdue football. I think Ultimate Boiler did a great job last week. Is going to be coming on here at some point soon. I think he said he's coming on around 9-ish. But I guess with that, if nobody jumps on here real quick, Cole, you want to talk about who the heck's going to win the Big Ten West?
Yeah,
or who's the real contenders and who's not?
Yeah, you got 6 teams 1-1, and then Wisconsin 0-2, the team that's dominated the division in the last 10 or however many years it's been put together. Man, I don't know. I mean, going into last week, everyone was saying Minnesota, but you're probably not hearing a lot of chatter from people after what we did to them. Again, they were without Ibrahim, but still. So it's why not us at this point? You go through every single team, and there are pretty big flaws on every team. A lot of teams don't have a lot of good offense. A lot of teams are maybe one-dimensional on offense. Then if you're Iowa, you're no-dimensional on offense. But even then, like, Iowa's defense is so good, maybe they can hang around long enough this season to become players in the West. I don't know. Illinois looked really good. And against Wisconsin, they can run the heck out of the ball.
I think Wisconsin's not good at all, by the way. I think
we'll see.
Might be the worst kept or under, just because they're Wisconsin. I think it's part of the reason Paul Chris got fired, which was absolutely shocking. But before we get into that, Ultimate Boiler is, I'm assuming, put the kid to bed and is now available to jump on the stream.
What's going on, guys?
How we doing?
Doing okay. You're right. Just put her to bed, so perfect timing.
Yeah, perfect timing. Well, we had the like we talked about last week. This is celebration podcast instead of the depression podcast. After that nasty taste we had in our mouth, the FAU game, it's nothing but roses right now, currently. But what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, overall, you can't be happy enough with the performance of the defense. I think, they were all playing great. Trice was an animal. He was everywhere. He did a great job in coverage. I heard or I saw read this week that he's got his brace fully off now in practice and everything. So that's awesome. And you could definitely tell that I think he felt more comfortable in the Minnesota game. He was just running all over the place. It was great to get that win because number one, it's a ranked opponent. Number two, it's a West opponent. 3, it's against a PJ Fleck coached team, so you can't ever be too happy about that. I was really happy with that. Aiden had a weird game. I'm just going to chalk that up to his injuries probably bothering him more than he's showing, and he's just trying to power through it. I don't think that'll be something that continues. I think that moving forward, he's going to pick up right where he left off. I mean, I think he's still in line to have a great year. Overall, can't be too upset. And then the running game picked up where the passing game wasn't. That was incredible to see. I think Devin Maccabee is going to be a fan favorite for the entirety of his career in West Lafayette. I've gone back and watched that 68-yard run probably, dozens, upwards of 20 times because, it was awesome. I mean, he could have just easily settled with that first down. He was there. He could have just laid down and been like, cool, we're going to keep the clock running. We're going to grind it out. But he was like, nope, looked upfield, saw a big hole to his left and just booked it. And it was really cool to see his acceleration because he just kind of came out of that pocket and zoomed past everybody, which is something that.
Not only that, he dragged that guy for like 20 yards. I think Minnesota kind of got up to him for 30, and he had that stiff arm that went for. I thought he was about to go in. He dragged him for about 20 yards with that stiff arm.
Yeah. So, all in all, loved it. Hope the passing game improves. Hope Aiden's okay with whatever's going on. It could have just been a fluke game. Could be just a lingering injury issue. I'm excited. I think Jalen Graham is hopefully going to come back this week. Hopefully we're not rushing him back. Hopefully he's, good and healthy and ready to go. Sucks to hear about Cam Craig, his career ending. I watched the presser this week and heard Braum talk about the offensive and defensive lines and just their performance. And I had to totally agree. I think they all did outstanding, and people stepped up where, there were holes due to injury and everything. So yeah, overall, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, it's I just thought of something when you're talking about Aiden. How did Justin Herbert look this weekend? Anybody know? Because he basically has the exact same injuries Aiden does, and I know he didn't look very good last week.
He's my fantasy quarterback. I know he
how many points did he get for you?
Like 23 or something like that, I think.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
that's something to watch. How Herbert did.
Yeah.
So like I said, Herbert he looked pretty much the same as Aiden did his first game back. With again, I think they have the exact same injury, but actually, Craig Maccabee, whose nephew's an absolute stud that we've been talking about this whole time, actually just brought up a name that I keep forgetting that actually I think could help this Purdue offense, Zion Steptoe.
That's somebody that on the other podcast that I'm on that we were all surprised that he hasn't really seen the field this year. We thought, I mean, it's a spring game. You can't chalk up a lot to a spring game just because, there's a lot of variables that go into that and everything. And you can't put your eggs all in one basket. But I mean, I thought he looked incredible in the spring game. So I was really surprised to have not seen him really get into too much yet this year at all.
Well, he did not get in at all against Indiana State, and they had a bunch of walk-ons, that were behind him in the depth chart clearly get into it, which I remember. I think Cole, if I texted you, I'm like, why is he not in? Which didn't know maybe if they thought they would need him at the end of the year, and they wanted to save those 4 games or not go over 4 games possibly. But he did look good in the spring game and looked like he's got some speed and kind of a Rondell-ish, or not maybe Rondell Moore. That's probably not fair to him, but kind of more in that mold where we need a guy that has some speed. Because I don't think we have one. Outside of Charlie Jones. I mean, Sheffield's pretty, I'd say probably average receiver speed. Really, everybody out there is kind of average to a little bit above average. We don't have any burners. We don't have like that Terry Wright or that.
I'd say maybe Deion Burks. It sounds like he's one of the faster guys on the team.
Yes, Deion Burks is Deion Burks. Yeah, that's a good one. Which I'd like to see him make more of an impact, but
who was I going to say? So the other podcast we've been talking about this since before the season started. Do you guys know anything about Kyle Bilodeau and what happened to him? He, that 4-star tight end that was coming in. He's not on the roster anymore. He's just like totally gone. His Twitter still says that he's on the football team and everything, but like I haven't heard anything about it. And I was, we were all really kind of surprised when nobody saw anything about him.
Yeah, he's still at Purdue, but he basically just quit football.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Wow.
I guess honestly, he looked a little bit slow. I don't think he'd be making an impact right now based off of what and apparently he thought that as well. That's why he quit. But he probably should have been an offensive lineman from what people are saying. But he gave up football. So he went the way of that punter. I can't remember that punter's name, but he quit 2 years ago too. He wasn't very good.
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
Webster. I can't remember Webster or somebody.
No, the guy from Arkansas, right?
That's way back. This guy, he's a freshman, had a really, really bad freshman year, and he quit. He's still at Purdue.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Webster.
I can't remember what his name is.
I can't remember his name either. But I think we definitely, again, Aiden, to me, Aiden did not look sharp. Looked like he had a plate of armor underneath his jersey. I mean, how big his chest was. Like I said, that's got to affect the ability to pass the ball, I would think. Just didn't look comfortable. Didn't have the touch on the throws, but hey, did enough to win. So hopefully, and good, didn't take very many shots. But the point you made about Corey Trice in the knee brace, which I read that as well, is I think a huge deal. Getting that brace off, and he looked like a completely different player. He kind of looked like he's been about 70% until last week, where he looked 100. So that's very, very nice to see.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I gotta jump off, but before I do, I gotta bring up a stat that Big Time and my dad brought up with penalties. So in the 3 Purdue wins, I believe they had like 4, 5, and 4 penalties. In the two losses, they've had 9 and 13. So that's a pretty clear indicator of
How
what
it's gonna go. Yeah.
what we need to do to win a game this year. So something to keep an eye on Saturday. And it's funny because the Minnesota game, I think there was only a few, but if you think back, you had the pass interference early on Taylor,
which was horse crap.
Yeah, right. Seems like most of them are, but then you had a couple offensive penalties that killed drives early on. So all those penalties came early. So it seemed like Purdue played a pretty clean game the last 3 quarters penalties wise. So maybe we're getting over the hump. We had a rough start to the year, but maybe we're getting over the hump. So
yeah.
Well, we were like one of the least penalized Big Ten teams in the country, last year. So hopefully, we are getting back to that form.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you having me on. Boiler up, and hopefully it's another exciting celebratory podcast next week.
Yeah, boiler up.
Thanks, Colt. Yeah, if Purdue beats Maryland, I think they are firmly in the driver's seat of the Big Ten West race.
I was talking to a buddy of mine. He was sending me I think the predictions for the game. It looks like Maryland's like a 56% chance to win versus our 43.94. And they're predicting the points to be 35-38. That's what they're saying the final score is going to be based off of just some stats and everything. But I think our defense did really well against Minnesota. But Minnesota's also kind of one-dimensional, or it seemed like they were last week. They didn't have Muhammad Ibrahim, so they really couldn't get the run game going that much. Passing game wasn't there. Tanner Morgan never really looked like he got comfortable behind the line. But I think Tua is a little bit different at Maryland. He's not only a passing threat, but he can also move his feet pretty well. He can take off running, and I think that's something that we've struggled with big time. So,
yep.
It's going to be interesting to see what the defensive scheme is, because we need to keep up with Tua. If he takes off running, we got to be ready for that. But we also got to be ready for the passing, and hopefully we can make him pass it over the middle. Because I think I was reading he throws an interception 17% of the time. He throws it over the middle or something like that. So, hopefully we can kind of throw in some coverages to kind of confuse them. Either get the pass rush going, or just and force them to throw over the middle. I think that's hopefully that's the game plan. Or I don't really know what I'm talking about because I'm not a college coach. So. But just from what I've seen and everything, he's pretty quick on his feet. So I'm a little nervous about that, just with how we handled, Syracuse's quarterback and FAU's. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I think 2 big things too, obviously, is Corey. We talked about Corey Trice. When he's 100%, he's pretty close to a shutdown corner. That's obviously going to help. Reese Taylor, who's had his ups and downs this year, but I think he's actually a pretty decent corner. And then Brown, those two able to, rotate with each other is a big deal. Jalen Graham getting back on the field is a huge deal.
Huge.
And the secondary continue to improve. But yeah, this is kind of our first test. We've not played a team like Maryland that can throw the ball over the yard, except I guess that we haven't practiced a bit against our own team. But we haven't played a team like this yet. That's why it's kind of a bit of an unknown how we're going to – it's almost like they kind of remind me of a Tennessee, maybe that's not accurate, but more of a version of a Tennessee. So, I think that 35-38 and we've talked about it. I know you weren't on earlier, but, the next step this Purdue football team needs to take, in our opinion, I think maybe we touched on it a little bit even with you, is we got to be able to extend these leads where, it's a 14-10 or whatever, 3-10 game and, 1 touchdown, makes a 17-3 game compared to a 10-10 game is such a big deal. And we've not been able to take, put our foot on their throat, any team's throat besides Indiana State at this point. And that has to change if we're going to win the Big Ten West and continue to improve. Yeah.
I was talking to a buddy of mine during the final drive when Minnesota had the ball, and I think the score was 13-10. I was talking to him. I was like, this defense has got to be sick to their stomach, because 3 out of the 4 games they've played, they've been in this situation. They're ready for a break. And And I feel like our defense has been showing up, but it's unfortunately and Aiden was injured, but our offense just wasn't. Because in my opinion, it could have, and I know nobody should live in could haves, woulda, shouldas, but it could have very easily been like 24-3 at halftime if we could have capitalized off of turnovers or
easily. Yeah.
PJ Fleck going for it on 4th and 2 at their own 30.
What a moronic call that was.
Right. And I think in the presser, he said he would do it again. Like
he'd do it again. That's
Yeah.
just arrogance. That's just a terrible.
That's
terrible. And I was a little surprised. What was your thoughts on that Jeff Brom? I think it was 4th and 15. And we got it down to 4th and 7 in the fourth quarter there, where I thought, it was kind of no man's land where we punted it.
Yeah.
Did you want to go for it there? Or were you happy with the punt?
Yeah. I mean, I can see why he wanted to punt it, because our defense had been holding strong, but I definitely wanted to go for it. I think anytime we're past our 50 and it's within, a doable range of like 4th. I know it was 4th and 7, but typically, in my opinion, if you're past the 50-yard line and it's 4th and 5 or less, I would like to go for it because it's not terrible field advantage if your opponent gets the ball on like the 45 of their own line, but I guess that really depends on how your defense was playing. But I wish they would have gone for it, but
Yeah, because I think it only ended up being about 20 yards when the punt went in the end zone, and then they think the next play they got 15 yards. So I think it pretty much evened it out.
Yeah,
but who knows? Yeah, maybe it would have been different if we would have went for it.
And I thought they should have went for it when they went for the field goal to make it 10-0 or 10-3. I can't remember what the score. I think it was 10-0. I wish they would have gone for it just because they were on their own 25 or 30-yard line. I was like, well, what's the harm in going for 2 yards right now or however long? I can't remember what the yardage was, but
yeah, I don't remember what it was either.
It was maybe like 4th and 5, 4th and 4. I'm like, go for it. You're on your own 30. Like even if you, if you miss or if you don't convert, they're going to be on, what they would get on a touchback. Who cares? But yeah, I think that was kind of a 50-50. Everybody else that I was talking to said it wasn't 50-50, that they should have definitely gone for the field goal just to get as many points as they could in that game, just with how the offense was, struggling, which looking back probably makes sense, but I would have liked them to go for it too.
Yeah, I think maybe the only other thing in that situation too is, such a dumb, idiotic, call by Fleck. You almost like have to hurt him with points there just to, stick it
rub
to
it
him.
in.
Rub it in. It's almost like you got to put salt in that wound, otherwise, and make him, doubt himself a little bit. And,
yeah. So on the other podcast that I do, we had Markel Jones on, which was really cool just to hear about his perspective on everything and just his experience with Purdue football. But he talked about PJ Fleck tried to recruit him when he was at Michigan State, and he said he had like a cashmere belt on, had the super spiffy suit, like the whole 9 yards. He's very flashy. And so I guess that personality trait of his is just continued on through his coaching career, which I just thought was funny to hear from like a person that got recruited by him, their perspective too, just talking about how flashy and big time he really thinks he is.
Yeah, he's a deal. I think he had some work done this offseason too. He looks like a completely different guy.
You never know, maybe Botox or something.
I think his face is completely different.
We'll have to watch the next Minnesota game, see if he has any wrinkles on his forehead when he smiles.
Yeah, I think they're all gone. It's weird. But, have you paid any attention to the Big Ten West as far as other teams and who is, in your eyes, who's a pretender and who's legit to actually win this thing besides, I guess, Purdue?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I still feel like it's too early, to be honest, which it's just so hard because so many things can happen in college football. Like this year feels to me like 2007, where Kansas is undefeated. College game day is literally going to Kansas next week, which is just crazy. This year just kind of feels like 2007 to me. So I really don't know. But I would say I think that Illinois surprised me a lot. They've definitely surprised me quite a bit, especially their game going from, which I guess it just shows how bad Wisconsin is right now, because they went from their game against Virginia where it looked like they were. It was kind of like, no, wait, you score. No, you score. No, you score. That's kind of what watching that Virginia game was like versus, they kind of went and handled their own against Wisconsin, which shocked, I think, a lot of people, or just kind of put the spotlight on how bad Wisconsin is this year.
I think it's the latter. I think it really put the spotlight on just how inept they're. Kind of like Iowa without the defense. It sounds
Which
like.
sucks, man. I just wish when a team was having a bad year, just one time, that they wait until to get rid of the coach until after we play them. Wait
Well,
till
at least we're not the next game.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's but yeah, what'd you think of that firing? That was beyond shocking. I remember I think I saw it. I was on my phone and just happened to, literally 10 seconds after Adam Rittenberg tweeted, I saw it, but I had to look and make sure. It's like, is this one of those fake, where it says the name, but then the @ is completely
Right.
something, not what actually their Twitter is. But like, again, that's shocking. The only reason I think they did that is because, they wanted to give Jim Leonard an audition to see if he's the coach. But man, if that team's as bad as maybe I think it is, he might not have why not have a fair shake at it, really, if he's got to inherit that mess.
Yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see if he still has Graham Mertz under center this week. So I'm interested to see that. But yeah, I was really shocked because when you look at it on paper, his record. This is like Bo Pelini looking in a mirror right now. Nebraska and Bo Pelini.
Yeah, and careful what you wish for Wisconsin.
Right, and Wisconsin, to my knowledge, have they won a national title? Have they won many?
I could be wrong on my history here, and somebody in the comments can maybe correct me, but I believe Wisconsin is kind of like the Michigan State in basketball, where they were not, very good until Izzo came. They might have been. That might not be right. That might not be a good analogy. But Wisconsin was not very good in football until Barry Alvarez got there.
Gotcha.
So they're like one of these teams that has gotten good in like the last 25 to 30 years.
Okay, but they've not won anything yet, right?
I don't think so. They've been to the Rose Bowl a few times.
So that's what's weird to me is because, I guess if I was in Nebraska's head, I can understand why you're not happy with 9 win seasons, because you're used to, or the precedent is winning national titles, 10, 11 games a year, playing in NY6 bowls. That's kind of your precipice. That's where your standard's at because you've been there before. Whereas like Wisconsin, you've not played for a national title. I don't know that they've played for a national title. I don't think they have, but they're like a 9 or 10 win, team, or 8, 9, 10 win team, but they've never been to a national title.
And he's also 6-1 in bowl games.
Right.
It's crazy. And what's funny there too is, they
two-time Big Ten Coach of the Year. I can't remember what all the other things was, but yeah, just really mind-blowing. Someone said that he had to have done something. There has to be something more to this than just I think
they're truly bad and they don't like the direction they're going and they don't want to lose Jim Leonard. And they just, like I said, it sounds like that. I think what it is that Lance Leopold guy, who's kind of like the Jeff Brom in 2018, although not as good a record. And Kansas, I don't think he's played as good a schedule as Purdue did. Is the hot commodity right now. Obviously, Nebraska really wants him, but he actually was coaching at like D3 in Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin Whitewater, and so I think that might be under the Wisconsin umbrella. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they can get him. But that's why they want to give Jim Leonard a try and see what they have there. If they want to keep him and don't want to lose him. But it's funny though. You mentioned Bo Pelini and the kind of the mirror on that. Thing is though, you couldn't have two different opposite personalities where Bo Pelini was an absolute dick and that's part of the reason he got fired is he got in so many fights with the administration there and Paul Kreis is like one of the nice guys.
Right.
So that's a little bit different, but yeah, it just seems like kind of they did him dirty. He's a Wisconsin guy, Madison guy, and man, they just basically threw him off the train and shot him in the back and said, what have you done for us in the last 5 games? Because man, he's.
But they also
had some bad hires.
But they also said, hey, here's $16.5 million.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he's $16 million to go.
I was trying to look for this tweet. So I thought the Nebraska fan base was delusional. And I think this is real. I don't think this is satire. Somebody said, I'm not saying Wisconsin can steal Nick Saban away from Alabama, but given our academics and our outstanding campus, we should at least call to gauge his interest. He'll probably say no, but have to at least pick up the phone and call at Badger football.
Oh, that was Wisconsin that said that?
No, that somebody added Badger football. It was David Hookstead, who looks like he's like maybe like a writer for Wisconsin athletics. He works for Outkick.com. It's like sports news.
That's Clay Travis's Clay Travis's thing. The thing was Wisconsin though is, I think the Big Ten West is not as bad. Well, I'm not talking this year, but overall the Big Ten West kind of gets crapped on. They're obviously not as good as the East because the East has Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
But Wisconsin is kind of that fourth tier, or not fourth tier, but fourth in line behind those guys. They've obviously taken advantage of being the big dog in the the West, where they don't really have as many. You don't have the Michigan, you don't have the Ohio State, and now it sounds like these divisions are going away with the additions of UCLA and USC, and so and apparently Wisconsin has terrible facilities. I had no idea, but like their indoor practice facility is only like 80 yards. It's not even a full 100. Yeah, I think somebody actually brought this to light on Twitter. Is like their facilities are not like even the Northwestern's level. They're like really bad.
Wow. Did you see? Speaking of Northwestern, did you see their potential new stadium that they're gonna?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a lot bigger than 35,000 seating capacity that they were talking or whatever.
Was that the max? Was 35? I remember
it was in the 30s, I think. But that definitely did. That looked more like 60, 70,000. It looked like a full NFL stadium. But
yeah, it looks sweet. But that's smart though for them. It's like, why not lower capacity and fill it up and actually have somewhat of a fan experience where
I just So on that tweet where somebody was, saying that Wisconsin should call Nick Saban, a Purdue fan, Gage BA replied and said, "Do it," with a picture of it's a screenshot of Joe Tiller and Nick Saban from whenever Saban was at Michigan State.
Tiller owns Saban.
It's too funny, man. Purdue fans are wild. Do you know? What's his name? He changes his name all the time, but I think his ad is like James Knows Ball or something. He makes like all these memes for Purdue, like football and basketball, and he just barrages like whenever the other team posts that they lost to us, he goes into their replies and he's like, "You just got stung by the Maccabee," and it's like Devin Maccabee's face on like a bee, and the image is like super boosted, and it's so funny.
I'm seeing it right now. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's the one that made the there was a great one that I used. I stole from somebody a couple years ago with Aiden. It's like, "You just got walked on by the walk-on," or something like that.
Yeah. He makes like the funniest stuff. He posts like anytime we beat somebody, just go to their final score posting and just look at the comments, because it's gonna be like 10 memes from him just going at him, and it's hilarious.
That's funny. I don't know if you heard us earlier. You didn't, because you're putting your daughter to bed. But I was a little worried about Maryland's defense because I thought they were decent.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me a little bit happier to see that their numbers aren't as good as I thought they were.
Yeah, their pass rush is pretty mid, pretty just kind of standard. They're not anything too crazy. Yeah,
run defense is 6, and they've played not that great of a schedule besides the last. Well, Michigan State's not very good. They basically played, the only good team they've played is Michigan, which I guess they played a pretty decent game. But run defense 67, pass defense 97, total defense 84. Scoring defense though is at 39. So they are either able to create turnovers or what. But I thought they had a decent secondary, but based off those numbers, that would not appear to be the case. So hopefully we can show an improved defense like we have been here lately, and have the offense take the next step. Because again, I think that this offense has to take the next step for us to take the next step, as cliche as that sounds. And
I totally agree. And it looks like they have one good corner. His name's, I think, Bo Brady or Braid. Looks like he's had 209 coverages, and I think he's covered 85% of them. Or out of the like 209 coverages, I think there's only been like 15 receptions or something like that, or some wild stat. He's really good. He's a really good corner. So if Aiden's feeling better, I feel like we're going to see what we did against Penn State and Syracuse, where he's just going to attack their best player and try to set a precedent early, which I personally am a big fan of. I love that he was throwing it straight at Joey Porter Jr., whoever he was guarding or defending. I think that sends a really good message that he just doesn't care. He's going to throw it to whoever because he has that faith in himself. But yeah, I'm excited for this weekend. I'm trying to figure out a way to go to the Nebraska game after this. I know it's a sellout, which is awesome. And like, if you go on StubHub right now, you can't find a ticket for less than like $75-$80 before.
Really? Now it's a night game too, right? They just announced that.
Yeah. Before like all the fees are even added in, it's like $75-$80. So, yeah.
Here's just thinking of this. Here's a question for you and everybody in the comments watching. Who do we want to win this weekend, Iowa or Illinois?
Oh man, that's a really good question.
I know. I can't really.
I feel like I want Iowa to win because I just don't want Illinois to ever think that they're good.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me at Iowa, I could just see Iowa just being stupid and just that defense in Iowa just finding a way to win football games and just continue, to winning games 14-7 or some bull crap, and they somehow, only have. Of course, they do have one Big Ten loss, thank goodness. Well, they got a pretty. Let's see, they play Illinois, and then they got a bye. It looks like. Then they play at Ohio State, which they're going to get blown out for that. And then they got Minnesota at the end of the year. But really, if Wisconsin is as bad as we think they are, they have basically Illinois, Ohio State, and Purdue and Minnesota. So they got 4 tough games left.
Yeah. I just don't want Illinois to ever be good at football. I feel like their fans, they're just so cocky when it comes to basketball. I just don't want that to leak over into football.
I can't stand Illinois. Yeah. They got to play at Michigan. So that's huge. These teams that work in other big things, the teams that if we can beat Maryland, for a fact that Illinois is not going to win at Michigan and Iowa is not going to win at Ohio State. So I think we can pretty much put those as losses.
Do you think if we beat Maryland that Purdue walks into week 7 ranked?
No, just do I think they should be ranked? Absolutely. Well, actually, hold on a second. I think surprisingly, I think we were ranked like 28th.
They got a couple votes. They got like 2 votes in the poll.
So yeah, possibly. I think if we do beat Maryland, maybe we do get to be ranked 25th, especially if Syracuse. I think Syracuse has a big game this weekend.
Yeah, did you see where Syracuse's game? Both coaches agreed to shorten the length of.
We talked about that earlier. Yeah, I've never seen that.
No clue that was even a thing, man.
10 minutes. Yeah, that's crazy. But I'm not sure. I know Penn State's on a bye. I think Syracuse had a big game against NC State coming up. I know they were talking about. They were talking about they wanted game day to be there.
What do they call their stadium? The Loud House? Is that what they nicknamed it? Hopefully.
I can't remember. I think so actually Syracuse is on a bye this week, but they play next week at home against number 14 NC State.
That'll be a good game. Yeah, they kept driving home. I don't know if you watched the Syracuse game and listened to the commentary too much, but they kept driving home. They call this the Loud House for a reason. It's like I don't think I've ever heard anybody call it.
Yeah, Tom Dienhart said it was one of the loudest venues he's ever been at.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's kind of like the Mackey Arena thing, the dome and the bounces off that. Cause they only have 50,000 fans there, but I think Purdue if Purdue was in the SEC, they'd be ranked.
I think Purdue has to beat Maryland handily for us to be ranked. I think we'll get a lot of votes if we beat them this week, but I don't think we'll get ranked yet. But I think if Purdue, pulls off a like 31-10 win or something like that, which I don't foresee, but if they do something like that, I think they'd be ranked. But
absolutely, yeah. And Syracuse is at 22, so I put Purdue right at 23.
Yeah,
if they can beat Maryland big, but wouldn't that be nice if we get a blowout? It's kind of, again, that's been the missing piece so far. Besides the Indiana State game, we've not been able to, pounce on somebody. And I have a feeling if we can get up, 14-3 or 21-7, I think Maryland seems like the kind of team that presses when that happens, and they're going to throw a few interceptions with Tua. He seems like he can be that kind of guy that throws picks. When he does throw them, it seems like it happens, in a hurry. So hopefully we can take advantage. That's the next step I want to see, and hopefully we have 100% Jalen Graham.
Yeah. I think Braum said in this week's presser that this is a totally different Maryland team than they played, 3 years ago when they debuted the Moon uniforms. Purdue did, but totally different team. He said they've gotten a lot better. They're a lot more aggressive. So I really haven't paid much attention to Maryland yet. I know I need to watch some film for the podcast that I do this week, but just to check things out. But yeah, I think it'll be a good one.
Yeah, should be one of the better games of the week, I would think.
Yeah.
But, yeah. You got a prediction on that game? You throw anything out?
Yeah, man, I always pick Purdue to win. I don't care what the odds are, what statistics or what anybody else says. I always pick Purdue to win. But, I think it's really going to depend on Aiden O'Connell. I think if Aiden can get healthier this week. I almost wish we had a bye week this week. That'd be great.
That would be actually, honestly, the bye week right now would be absolutely perfect.
Yeah. But, I hope, I think if Aiden can get more healthy, I think that we could have a great offensive game. I also would love to see how the run game does against Maryland. I want to see if this is going to be a continued trend, if the run game is going to continue to advance and develop, because it's kind of funny if you watch Jeff Braum talk about running. He's kind of like it's almost like he's uncomfortable talking about it because he's just like, I don't run the ball. Like, this is weird, So it's cool to see that, though. It's cool to see because I think Coach Barkley is a really good coach that just hasn't been able to have that highlighted, which, I think now is the time, especially with a guy like Maccabee and Dylan. I saw somebody ask Coach if Maccabee and Dylan were on scholarship yet, and he smiled and said no. So I'm hoping that means that we're gonna see one of those videos here soon where they surprise them with scholarships. I think that would be great.
We're just talking about Cam Craig being done now, so that opens up that scholarship to be. Yeah, I would assume go to Downing, since I was kind of shocked he did not get a scholarship coming into this season.
Yeah, I was too, honestly. I think I said something like that. I was like, I don't know if we need to take away somebody's scholarship to give it to Maccabee or Downing. I was like, but I'm down. I don't know.
With NIL, just pay him.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
because again, I thought somebody was on the podcast earlier, and I had a roommate that played for Purdue, and he was a walk-on, and he could not actually eat with them, like training table. I guess that wasn't allowed. But this guy was Chris was saying that that's now been changed. Haven't clarified that, but even on the broadcast they said about him gaining weight and training table and stuff. So I don't know.
Why would you not be able to eat with your teammates? That's so
well.
Weird.
It's just training. Yeah, it's training table. I don't know. It's kind of a.
Again, like they need to eat this specifically because to fuel their body or whatever, because I don't know. That's weird. Man.
Yeah, it's almost like the dining people want to eat with them. It's almost if it's a way maybe to. Yeah, a weird NCAA rule to kind of limit the walk-on program, if you will. But I don't exactly know. Again,
it's like an NCAA rule.
Yeah, it's a rule.
Oh, I thought you meant it was like a Purdue football rule.
No. Yeah, it was an NCAA football rule. Yeah, that they could not be at training table, and there was things that walk-ons could not do. Yeah, you can't eat our food.
Yeah,
but this guy was saying it was changed, so I'll take his word for it. But as far as I knew, that was if anybody knows that and they want to comment, please do. Okay, they did change it. All right, 8 to 10 years ago. Well, that's about when I was in college, so they changed that. Okay, that's good to know, Wags. But yeah, did you say a score for that game this weekend?
For what game? Sorry,
Maryland Purdue.
Oh no, I didn't say a score. I really don't know. I think it depends on so much. I say if we have if Aiden is able to heal more and kind of get out of the funk, I think Purdue puts it somewhere in the 30s. So I'm gonna say 35-24. That's what I'm gonna go with.
That's good. Actually, I have 35 in my mind as well, but I'm gonna go 35-17.
Let's go.
Defense,
even better.
Do you think defense shows up? I think we actually take a step and get them on their heels, and Tua throws 3 interceptions.
That'd be awesome. That'd be
and
great.
Gets hurt. Seems like he gets hurt every other game, so he's due for this one to get hurt.
Isn't he the other Tua's brother in the NFL right now?
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Yep.
Man.
Yeah, he actually I saw the interview. I guess Tua was going to Miami as soon as that game got over. He got an interview and said, "I'm headed on a plane now to go to Miami to see my brother."
Yeah.
Which I saw a tweet today, which is a little crazy, but I guess that guy that made that Will Smith movie, The Doctor, about concussions. Came out and said that Tua needs to retire immediately.
Yeah, I saw something about what they call it, secondhand syndrome or something like that. It's like where your symptoms aren't visible, but you're not quite recovered from your concussion yet, and you can like ruin your whole life, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently Tua, even Coach Loxley was saying, they're very, very, very close brothers, almost like twins.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, like, the whole thing had been affecting him as well. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Tagovailoa, I think is how you say his name, or something like that. I probably just butchered it, but this obviously kind of this distraction a little bit too, I'm sure, doesn't helps Purdue a little bit. I hate to say it like that, but he's probably not as focused, maybe as he normally would be.
But I think my wife just texted me. I think my daughter just woke back up, so I got to go put her back down to bed. Dad problems, but
yep, I know
it's
that
good. Good being on here, man. Good talking to you, and
good chatting.
Yeah, all right, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, we'll see you.
See ya.
All right. Solo again here. I guess I should say again for the first time tonight. If anybody else wants to jump in, feel free. Again, the link, I'll post it right now. You can come on video if you would like, kind of like pretty much everybody has so far tonight except one person, which is totally fine. If you just want to use your voice, you can use your cell phone. You can talk, I think pretty much how you would talk on a phone call, and it just shows a blank picture up there. But if you want to do that, feel free to jump on. If nobody gets on within the next couple minutes, we'll probably call it a night. But again, I'm out traveling in Missouri, so I don't have a whole lot to do tonight. So if you guys want to talk football, I will talk football with you. But yeah, I think going back to that Illinois Iowa situation, it's kind of early to, talk about, again, real contenders and who's not a contender. In my eyes right now, until things change, Purdue's a contender. Iowa, I hate to say it, is still a contender, even though that offense is terrible. If they lose to Illinois, obviously, I don't know if we can call them a contender at all anymore. But Illinois, I watched that IU-Illinois game. Illinois did not look good. First of all, IU is not a good football team this year. Illinois did not look good. Obviously, they just beat Wisconsin, who, again, I don't think Wisconsin's very good at all, hence why they fired Paul Christ. They beat Virginia 24-3. Virginia is absolutely terrible. They played Chattanooga the next week, the week before they played before they played Wisconsin. How much can we learn from that? I don't know. I think we're going to find out quite a bit about, I don't know, because I was so bad on offense, and Illinois seems to have a pretty decent defense. I guess we're probably going to find out about Iowa's offense this week. They seem to be a lot like Minnesota, who they ended up playing next week. Again, 2 home games in a row for Illinois, Iowa and Minnesota. So, man, if they win those games, that Purdue look at the schedule. They got at Nebraska. They play home to Michigan State, home to Purdue, on the road against Michigan, on the road against Northwestern. I would say if you take out that Michigan game and the fact that all their tough games are at home, besides, Nebraska's on the road, Illinois might have the easiest schedule if they can beat Iowa. Whew. I don't know, guys. I'm torn on this. I kind of want – I'm not sure how I want to win that game. Again, Iowa has an automatic loss against Ohio State, so that puts them at 2 losses. If we beat them, that's 3. That's enough to do it. So, yeah, maybe Iowa should win. But, yeah, again, if anybody wants to jump on to the podcast, hit the link. Love to have you in, talk Purdue football. Basketball real quick. Jaden Ivey had his Pistons debut tonight, which I'm a huge Pistons fan. Been a Pistons fan since I was like 4 years old. So love that Jaden Ivey's on my team. I watched the first quarter, but I did not see what he ended up finishing with. Some of you guys care about that, but I don't see it here. Yeah, the game's over. Pistons got stomped on. But yeah, I'm trying to see what the box score showed. Oh, he had 16. Jaden had 16 points in 22 minutes. 6 of 9 from the floor. 1 of 1 for 3, which was a transition 3. Looks like he played a pretty decent game. Yeah, well, I'm thinking Iowa too. Yeah, because of that schedule. I think you're right. Looking at it again, Illinois, man. They have the easiest schedule in the Big Ten, if you ask me, going forward, just for the fact, again, they have Iowa this weekend, at Illinois, Minnesota next weekend, the following weekend, at Illinois against Minnesota. They go on the road. They have a bye week. Then they go on the road to Nebraska. They get to play Michigan State at home. They play Purdue at home. Then they go to Michigan, which they'll probably lose that game, which unless Brett can pull a miracle out of his hat. And then they finish the game against Northwestern, who's by far, I think, the worst team in the Big Ten. Maybe Nebraska is one of those two. But so if Illinois could lose to Iowa, they could lose to Minnesota. They could even lose to Nebraska, and Michigan State, and Purdue. And Michigan, Illinois. Theoretically, Illinois is one of those weird teams where, man, they could literally win the next 5 games, or they could legit go 1-4 in the next 5 games. So it might be. I think this Iowa game is going to show a lot. But yeah, again, if anybody wants to jump on, would love to talk to somebody if they would like. Kind of running out of topics here. That's the problem when you go live. You just kind of, mumble a little bit. or if anybody, if you don't want to get on here, but you want to have me discuss something, feel free to put a comment in, and I will talk about it. If you guys want me to hit on a certain topic. Patrick Kennedy, Purdue's going to win Saturday. Triple X for everyone. Hey, I'm good with that. I big fan of Triple X. I am not a fan though. Somebody correct me or let me know which one it is. I can't remember. What is the peanut butter burger? Is that the Dwayne Purvis burger? I'm not a fan of that one, or maybe it's the Dwayne Purvis burger that I like. I like the. I think it's just the one with lettuce, tomato, and ketchup. But yeah, before the season started, I had this game. I had Purdue after the Maryland game at 4-2. I had a loss against Minnesota and Maryland. So I had us going, and then a win. Well, really, no, I take that back. I had a sorry, I was reading a comment, lost my thought. Let's see. I had a win against Penn State, which they obviously lost. And then I had them losing against Minnesota, Maryland, and I had them losing in Wisconsin. So I had us going 1-3 in October. And right now, if I'm being honest, it's hard to say we're going to beat Wisconsin until we actually beat Wisconsin, kind of like Minnesota. I think Purdue, dare I say 4-0 in October? All right, let's put it this way. If Purdue beats Maryland, I think Purdue will go 4-0 in October. If Purdue loses to Maryland, I think we'll probably be 3-1, at worst 2-2. I think we beat Nebraska, and that Wisconsin game might be a toss-up. We'll see if Jim Leonard can get it fixed quickly. But man, Jim Leonard's defense has also been giving up quite a few points this year. He's not been as good as he's been in the past, and that might be a talent thing. Of course, I don't know how many years Jim Leonard's actually even been there. Has he even recruited the guy that he's playing right now? Let's see what his coaching is. Okay, so yeah, he probably has. So he got there in 2016 as a defensive backs coach, and he's been the D coordinator since 2017. So okay, so he has everybody there. Pretty much is his guy. Okay. We need a Bromberger. Patrick Kennedy says that. Well, we could open up a whole new can of worms if anybody wants it. Not that I like to speculate on anything, but the only besides us losing a couple close games this year, the only bad thing about it, and I really hope this doesn't become a big issue going forward if we keep winning and this team keeps losing, but the Louisville situation with that football team. Obviously not doing very good. I thought maybe that noise was going to quiet down when they beat UCF, and I think they blew out somebody else too, but then they just got beat by a very bad Boston College team. I think they lost 34-35. That seat is quickly heating up over there. And just the last thing Purdue needs is us to take care of business against Maryland, be 4-2, beat Nebraska, we're 5-2, and maybe a few more games, and then Louisville fires their coach, and now we have a media circus in the Louisville meeting saying, I don't care if you think he's going to go there or not, but if Brom keeps winning, even if he's not going there, which there might be some smoke to that fire, it's just going to be a distraction. And typical Purdue, something if we have success, something has to get in the way and become a distraction. So hopefully it doesn't happen. I'm hoping just for I'm not even talking about the future. I'm just for the sake of this season, I hope we'll win some games and that noise off, or the fire on Satterfield's chair dies down a little bit. But I'm sure that can be a whole different discussion. We got a guest, Wags, who's been contributing on the chat tonight. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. Glad you're able to jump on.
So I was thinking, have we talked about basketball at all?
We've not. I've actually not. Excuse me. I've not really actually touched on basketball at all this podcast season yet. But I would love to talk about it if that's what you would like to discuss.
Sure. So practice obviously just started. Was it last week? What are your thoughts on which players will start, which players will play? I know pretty much everybody assumes that the 7-footer freshman will redshirt, but everybody else is up for grabs as to whether they'll redshirt or not.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And so I played basketball growing up. Did not play football, full disclosure, but I was always, those were my two sports. But, I actually have some decent, or not decent, but play basketball. So that seems like I would, my knowledge is a little bit better on that. But I was really disappointed last year. Just going, the fact that Painter did not recruit a transfer portal point guard last year when that clearly was the biggest need on that team. And now we're in a situation where, we're going to have to rely on some freshmen, and then the transfer from Utah who didn't put up the best numbers last year with Utah, but I think he's actually going to be pretty decent. I think, David Jenkins, is that his name? Did I say that right? Yeah. But it sounds like now he's not even going to start at point guard. It sounds like maybe Braden or Fletcher Lawyer or maybe even Braden Smith will be starting at point guard, which is interesting. Braden went to Westfield. That's where I went. He's a stud. I think Braden's kind of going to be like the Brad Davison of Purdue, where everybody, or the Jordan Halls, where he's the guy that gets on everybody's nerves, and everybody's going to hate it for 4 years. So hopefully he become one of those players. But as far as the starting lineup, actually, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think Zach Edey's a given. But then you have, I think First is going to be probably the most improved player on the team. I think he had that foot issue last year that kind of set him back a little bit. But you got First, Gillis, and then Trey Kaufman-Renn, all pretty much kind of play the same position. So there might be a bit of a logjam there. I think one of those guys might be left out a little bit, or I think they'll probably also be the backup center, I should say, which might actually be good. When Edey needs a break, you can put First at the 5 or Trey Kaufman-Renn at the 5, and run a little bit of small ball. But this is going to be a kind of a wait and see for me. I think hopefully this can be a tournament team. They obviously have the talent, but until we kind of see them on the floor, it's going to be. I don't know. What are your thoughts, predictions on this season?
Yeah, well, looking at the front court as you're talking about, I figure we're looking 25-ish minutes for Edey, and then you got the other 15 minutes probably First, and then you got the 40 minutes at the 4 to split between mainly Kaufman-Renn and Gillis, with First possibly taking some of those minutes as well. So I assume whoever's playing the best is going to play the most minutes at the 4. but it's hard to tell there. Guard spots, I guess they're all pretty much up for grabs.
Yeah.
I don't know that Painter's settled on anyone to start at them. You know, Newman hasn't really locked it down yet. You got the freshman Lawyer, Braden Smith. You've got Morton. Maybe he's the most likely to start at this point. But I mean, it's still up for grabs. Then you got Jenkins. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if any of those guys started, and maybe they will all start at some point during the season.
Yeah, I think really Edie, I think might be the only set starter. I think that you can kind of pencil in right now.
Yeah, and then the question is anybody else going to redshirt? The kid from Minnesota, I forget his name off the top of my head.
Cameron Hyde, I believe. Or Camden Hyde.
I think he could possibly redshirt because we also have the kid from Carmel coming off the injury.
Which I'm excited to see him. He's I know they were
Waddell.
Waddell. They were really praising him last year, and he was even. I think Brian even said that NBA scouts were actually talking about him in practices. Then obviously he got, as soon as Brian said that, he put the curse on him and he tore his ACL. But if Waddell could come to, we're going to need a guy like Waddell or somebody like that to kind of come out of nowhere. And I think for this team to, be a top 3, top 4 team in the Big Ten.
Yes, I saw Smith a couple times last year in high school. I was actually at the Brownsburg game at Brownsburg where he got injured in the first half. And ironically, that's where I saw what's the kid's is it Catchings?
Yeah, I think he plays for Brownsburg, right?
Yeah. So I saw him in that game. I was like, man, he's got to be related to Tamika, and he looks pretty good and he looks tall. I'd never really heard of him before. But that's the first time I heard of him.
He's the nephew, right? Of her?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's right.
Tamika is his aunt.
Okay.
I figured, what are the chances? He's got to be related, seeing as she played for the Fever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not that many people with that last name.
I think his mom played also. Obviously not as good as Tamika.
Yeah, she was really good too. I think I don't know if she may have played the WNBA, but she's a great college player. If I remember, I can't remember where she went.
But I think she may have did. We're developing a pipeline of WNBA sons.
But I haven't looked at the schedule to see what kind of record I'm looking at this year. But I'm thinking. I'm trying to remember who we play. Non-conference, we're going to have probably at least 2 tough games. I mean, really not 2 or 3 tough games out in, what's that, Portland?
Yeah, the Nike Phil Knight or whatever it is.
So I'm hoping we can win 2 out of 3, but we really need to win that first game just to ensure that we get the tougher games after that. Who else do we have? We've got just looking at it right now. We got Davidson. Davidson. We got them. That should be a win.
I think that's an Indy, right? And then we got Marquette, West Virginia, Florida State.
Marquette's at home. Florida State's on the road. So
they just lost one of their best players to injury today for the year.
Oh, who's that?
I didn't see the name, and it was apparently one of their transfers. That was supposed to be one of their better contributors this year towards ACL.
I'll have to look that up. Hopefully we can split the 2 road games. Florida State sometimes causes us problems. I know we killed them. What was it? Was that this past year?
I believe so. Yeah, Florida State.
We beat them by like 40.
I think so, yeah. Yeah,
we've lost at Florida State before, so I'm not going to count that as a win. But if we can split that and West Virginia, is that at West Virginia or is that neutral?
That's what I wasn't sure of. Wasn't.
Oh no, that's the Big East thing, right?
Okay, it says at. Yeah, this doesn't. It's at Veterans Memorial Coliseum, which is. Okay, no, that is actually the Oregon game, at Oregon or whatever, the Nike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Marquette's the Big East one. Marquette's the Big East one. That's right.
Yeah, the Vincent says we'll likely play Gonzaga.
we need to beat West Virginia to ensure that we're going to play 2 more tough games that'll help our strength of schedule.
Yeah. I'd love to if one of the writers or whatever at Golden Black or somebody would ask Painter if he enjoys coaching a team like he has coming up more than a team that has lofty expectations, like maybe a team from last year, which one he gets more enjoyment out of. Because he seems to me, Paint seems like the kind of guy that would like to coach this team, more than he would a team that's a top 10 ranked team, where he likes the teams that improve, as the season goes on and maybe don't have the stars, if you will, like the Ivies or, some of the personalities, the Edwards and the, Trevions, although Trevion wasn't that big of a personality, but just this kind of reminds me of the Chris Kramer, my freshman year, I think 06, Keaton Grant and Kramer came in, and I can't remember who else was on that team. Landry was there, Landry and Teague. Yeah. Coming off injury and the expectations weren't there, and there were some good players there, but we weren't sure how the freshmen were going to do, and the fact that they, it seems like this kind of team is what we have coming up, I think, this year, where they surprise some people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that we got a couple guys coming off red shirts, a lot of guys that didn't play as many minutes last year. So, I mean, we do have Edie back, which is, he's going to be able to handle his points and rebounds are going to be huge, and we can pretty much count on that every game. But behind him, could be someone different every game that has double-digit scoring. So should be an interesting season.
Good. So I'm also excited too. This is the first time Zach Edey where there's not somebody of his talent level, or I don't know if talent, skill level, or goodness is either in front of him or behind him. So that's going to be interesting to see as well. He's the guy at center.
Yep. And the Big Ten's probably wide open this year too. I wouldn't say there's any favorite. I mean, some people have said Indiana, but I mean, a lot of times they've had strong players and they haven't really fulfilled their expectations. And they have a lot of new guys coming in, a couple highly touted freshmen. You never know how those guys are going to round out.
Yeah, I think it was the Big Ten Network, and usually I'm more excited about basketball, and I'm usually all in. But I don't, maybe just the way this last season go, I haven't really paid attention to it as much. I've been on the football, but I think the Big Ten Network did like a list of the top 20 Big Ten players, and it was not impressive. Who some of these guys that were in the top 10, top 15, and if that's the case, this might be a pretty down year for the Big Ten. So it could be anybody's conference.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if obviously Edey would have been in the top 10,
he was top 5, I think. Yeah, I think he was top 5. But they had guys like who's the guy for IU, 25.
I mean, Jackson Davis was probably 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, he was up there. I can't even remember what the top 5 was, but gosh, who's the guy that is from Minnesota, plays at IU? Race Thompson. They had Thompson like top 15.
Wow.
They just had a bunch of guys like that were like, man, if those are your top 15 kind of players, Big Ten has absolutely hardly any stars.
Did they not put freshmen on there?
I think freshmen were on there.
I was going to say, I used freshman guard was probably on the top 10.
Find that list, because that would be a good list to just talk about right now.
He had, if he's not ahead of Race Thompson, I mean, Race Thompson can't even be top 3 on the IU. You got Xavier Johnson's got to be ahead of him, right?
I'm not sure if he was or not, which they probably should have been.
I'm trying to think who else. Looking at other teams, Minnesota probably. Minnesota had some guy that scored a lot, but I don't know if he's that good.
Maybe this was it. Busting Brackets may have done it, and they did not include freshmen.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was like 25. Derek Walker, Tanner Holden, Ohio State, Tyler Wall. I mean, these guys are just top 20. You got Tyson Walker, Michigan State, McCaffrey from Iowa, top 20 player. Sheesh. Llewellyn, Hogarth. I mean, yeah, there's just who they got in top 5.
Name the top 10 for me.
All right, top 10. Here we go. They have Bowie, Northwestern.
Okay,
I don't even remember that guy. Apparently, he had 14 points last year. Terrence Shannon Jr. from Illinois. He's a transfer.
from Texas
Yep.
Tech. He's good.
Clifford Omerenjoyi, that
the
the
guy
white
from
kid with the
Rutgers.
headband. Yeah.
No, he's the big guy, the big black guy.
Oh, that's right. He is.
Dunks.
You're right.
He's the guy that misses dunks and stuff.
Yep, that's right. You're right. Yep, I was looking at the wrong picture. The other guy, Paul Mulkey, I think is his name. Or probably saying that wrong. Yeah, he's number 7.
Okay.
Xavier Johnson at 6.
Okay.
Chris Murray at 5. Jamison Battle for Minnesota at 4.
He just scores a lot of points for a team that's not good. So I don't.
Yep. Zach
sure
Edey
about
at 3. And then they got Jackson Davis at 2 and Hunter Dickinson at 1.
Yeah. So when we get closer to the top, it's pretty good, but not too deep.
It's funny too. It's all big men up top. There's no, there's no like premier. I mean, Xavier Johnson's, I think, a pretty good player, but I don't know if is he the best guard on that list? If he's your best.
He's first team. That's not good.
I mean, if
someone's
Johnson's the best guard,
gonna break out and be ahead of him.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think you're right.
Was Mayer for Illinois also? He's probably just outside the top 10.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing him in like. And then they got like Dawson Garcia. Forgot about him transferring in. He's 12.
He's going back and forth. He was at.
But yeah, this has Race
Marquette.
Thompson at 13. Jeez.
And I forget, where's Dawson Garcia at now?
Minnesota, back at his hometown.
He came back, yeah.
Yeah, they have Matthew Mayer at 15. So yeah, I mean that's like hardly any guards. It's all big men.
So it's Xavier, I don't know. I guess Shannon would be the number 2 guard.
I think so. A transfer in.
Yeah, so there's going to be guys coming out of nowhere. Somebody's going to be good. We just don't know who it is.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be exciting to watch. Again, how disappointed were you in last year? Were you?
Oh God, I was during the game, so I joined. I was on a Twitch stream with somebody who was sidecasting in the tournament, and we were specifically doing that game. So I was sidecasting with him, and that was not good at the end. I mean, I just didn't expect that to happen. And they didn't really hit a bunch of threes or anything. They slowed us down and we just couldn't score.
Yeah, I was so like, again, I sound like a broken record, but I know on the boards too, I was just baffled that we did not pursue a transfer point guard going into last year. It's almost like Iowa in the quarterback situation. Maybe not to that magnitude, but it's like it was obvious to everybody, especially in that who was it that we got beat by? Was it Texas?
North Texas was the year before. St. Peter's was this past year.
Yeah. But even the North Texas game, that even that season, I'm saying is obvious we were lacking a point guard, and didn't do anything about it. Relied on Hunter and Thompson, and I think we should have had Ivy. I think bring the ball up a little bit more and kind of live with that, but we didn't really do that, and it kind of bit us. Even tonight, I noticed the Detroit Pistons had Jaden Ivey actually bringing up the ball quite a bit with Cade Cunningham just playing the 2.
No, I mean Ivy did. I can't remember if he had a bunch of turnovers, but I know he didn't have a good game at all against St. Peter's.
No, he was awful in that game. Jaden, hopefully he'd be the first to tell you, but he was terrible. And not only that, he was letting he was like coming unglued. Never seen him like that, where he was just he was letting somebody get to him or whatever. But yeah, the body language wasn't good. He was just clearly rattled. He was fighting with Trevian on the sideline. It was just not good.
Oh yeah, didn't Trevian have some terrible pass he made?
He had about 2 of those a game, it seemed.
I mean, he had one where I think he could have made an easy pass or something, and he tried to make a crazy pass, and I think that's how the argument started.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, hopefully football continues to do well, and then that would make the basketball season even sweeter going into it.
Yeah. So switching back to football, I mean, we've played our toughest games, considering Wisconsin doesn't look like they're going to be as good as we thought they might be at the beginning of the season. I mean, what would you consider our toughest game remaining on the schedule?
That's a great question. Honestly, well, I mean, it's so hard because some of these teams, I don't know who's a paper tiger and who's not. Maryland is one of those teams I think is not maybe as tested as I thought they were. But I would almost say Maryland. But again, I'm not sold on Illinois. Iowa's got a legit defense, but we've been known to handle them, and their offense is terrible. Wisconsin doesn't look very good. Nebraska's not very good, but they're also a team that could probably put it together one game and be difficult. But I would have to say this next week. I think Maryland's the toughest game remaining.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to say this, but we haven't beaten Wisconsin in so long. It's on the road, even though they're not great. They just have our numbers, so I'm not going to count that as a win by any means.
No, I'm not either. That's a loss to me until we actually do it. So, I mean, for right now, I would put Maryland at number 1, Wisconsin at 2.
I mean, Iowa, we fared well against them. They have no offense. We've got 2 former Iowa players that are, I'm assuming, going to want to play well against them. And we've had their number. I feel like we should be able to win that game. Illinois, seems like that game's always close. It's on the road, but I don't think that really affects anything. There's not a huge away environment. Northwestern, I think that's at home, right? Northwestern's at home. That's should be an easy win.
Yeah.
At IU, IU's not that good.
They're terrible too.
I mean, we should be able to run the ball against them.
Of course, the key word there is should, and Purdue and should, as you know, don't always go together. Those 2 words don't always go together, Purdue and should. It seems like Purdue likes to Purdue itself. And unfortunately with Brom, it seems like, well, of course, that always has a game that, we should win, but I mean, we lose. But maybe that was the FAU game this year where, we won it, but it kind of felt like a loss taste in our mouths maybe. Or the Syracuse game maybe could be that game. But if we beat Maryland, I really think that we might only lose one more game the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's right. 2003 was the last win against Wisconsin. 2004 was the game that everybody remembers, game day, fumble. And I guess that's the curse that has continued as we haven't beaten them since that happened.
Yep, and we should have beat them, what was that, 2-3 years ago? When
that was
double overtime?
Yeah, was that 2 years ago?
It was 2019. I think it was 2019.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was at the game. I remember double overtime. I think I knew we were in trouble once they just run the ball, and we wouldn't be able to stop them by that point.
Yeah, I remember I was like running an errand in that game, which I usually don't do that, but I think even we were up like by 14. I want to say too, in the fourth quarter. Yeah, Devin said 2019.
I mean, Nebraska at home, night game. We can't lose that game.
We shouldn't. Nebraska, I mean, they do have some talent. That's the only thing with their defense. That's the thing we've been talking about. I don't know how long you've been on this podcast, but I think before I can say really comfortably Purdue's going to win these games, Purdue's offense has to take the next step where I think their defense is playing pretty good. And honestly, if the defense plays like this the rest of the year, we're going to be golden. Just the offense has to take the next step of where the defense is playing well. We got a 1-score lead. The defense is pretty much holding them, and we're not doing anything with the ball for like a quarter or even 2 quarters, like the Minnesota game. We scored 10 points in the first 10 minutes of the game. We don't score until the fourth quarter. That seems to be a theme this year. And obviously, if you don't put your foot on their throat, and you have a game that's continuing to be close, things can happen in a second. And, we got to find a way to increase these leads. To me, that's the next step we have to take, is get this offense rolling. And hopefully with the running game improving like it has been, that's going to help us take that next step.
Yep. For this weekend, let's see. I'm thinking just to be safe, we probably need to score in the 30s because Maryland's, they have the firepower to score. Tua can run and he can pass. So I'd like to keep him in the pocket. I wouldn't really compare him to Syracuse quarterback because he's a much better thrower. He's more athletic. He's not going to break tackles. If you get him, you should be able to tackle him. He's not going to run you over.
And I know they don't like him taking hits because those two guys, both the brothers are small. They can run, but if they do run, they're the kind of guys that run, for 8 yards and then go out of bounds. They do not want them taking hits because they are constantly getting hurt, just the way they're built. But yeah, you're right. I think 30s is definitely 30s is the magic number. You look even at Maryland's games so far. They've only, they put up 56 against Charlotte, but that's like Indiana State. Yeah. Everybody else, they've, Buffalo 31, SMU, they put up 34, even Michigan State 27, which Minnesota put up 35 did Minnesota put up against them?
And most of that was in the first half, right?
Yeah. Ibrahim didn't play in the second half. I don't think Minnesota punted against Michigan State.
No, I believe.
In fact, I think there was 4 times all year before the Purdue game did Minnesota punt.
Yeah, they said end of the game, end of the half, and either I don't know if they had a turnover or something, or they turned it over on downs or something. But they didn't punt against Michigan State.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think 30. I said 35. Yeah, if we get to 35, I'm pretty confident Purdue can. If actually, I'll take it even step. If Purdue can get in the 30s at all, I think Purdue. I'm pretty confident Purdue will win that game.
Yeah, we can't afford to miss any short field goals. At least, feel like if we can hit those short field goals, keep the pressure on them by not, getting them fired up. And if we miss a field goal, it seems like that causes problems for us when we start missing field goals.
Yeah, I think it's important that we come out and have a start like we did against Minnesota, where we score first, or at least our first drive, and get some momentum that way, and we're not playing from behind, which really I don't think Purdue's played. Besides that, Syracuse game, the very end of it, we really haven't played from behind much at all this year.
Yeah, I guess start of the second half against Penn State until we took the lead. We were down what was it? We were down at half 14.
Oh, you're 13. Right. Oh, you're right. That's right.
They scored that touchdown right at the end of the half.
Yep.
That was brutal.
That pathetic display.
So we were about to go in and either tie it or what was the score? What was it like? Was it 14-10?
It was 13-10.
13-10.
I think it was 13-7. No, that's not right. It was 10. That's right. It was 10-7. 10-7. We had the ball, I believe. It was 10-7 because we were on pace to, I think, at least kick a field goal and tie it. I think that's right. I'd be off a little bit. And then, it was instead of a tie game or us leading, it was 20. No, actually, no. Was that not right? I think it was maybe 13-7. I can't remember.
Did we only have 7?
We only had 7. I'm pretty sure we only had 7. That might not be right. You know what?
Have to look it up now. It's right.
Yeah, there's a thing called the internet. Let's look it up. Or if anybody knows in the comments, feel free to.
It was 21-10 at half, so it was 14-10. Okay, I was pretty sure we had 10.
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty sure we had 10. So it was 14-10. So we would have cut the lead to 1 or taken the lead. I mean, if you didn't fumble there, we're in field goal range, and it's under 40, which...
Yeah, because he fumbled on the 20-yard line, I think, or something.
Yeah, our kicker is pretty much automatic inside 40.
Until he misses 1 or 2. Then he gets inside. Yeah,
I don't think he's missed from 40. Right?
Yeah, he's pretty automatic inside 40. I know he was actually
once
hurt
he gets past 40, he's pretty iffy. But
yeah.
So if you're down 14-13, you're looking good. Instead, you're down 21-10 at half. Then we came out and scored 14 straight in the third to take the lead. And then it went back and forth in the fourth quarter. And then obviously Syracuse, we we had a small lead pretty much the entire game, right? Until
we were up 10-3, which seemed like an eternity, and we couldn't score another point to save our lives. Then Syracuse tied it up 10-10, and then Aiden, I believe, threw the pick six. Is that right? Right after that,
I thought Syracuse was up like 3 when he threw the pick six.
that could be right. I just remember even before the pick six. I remember I think what made them tie it up could be a possession off, but that Jack Sullivan late hit where it was third down and they were going to be off the field, and that's just horrendous late hit out of bounds, which got them the ball back and they scored a touchdown.
Let's see. They were up. Yeah, they were up 18-15. I was right. They were up by 3. They had scored a touchdown, got a 2-point conversion. Then they had the pick six. And then we responded with 2 touchdowns. And then, well, you know how it ends.
Yep.
With, 6 penalties or something in the 50 seconds.
Hopefully that was I think we've had enough bad losses and heartbreaks to last the year, hopefully, but who knows. But looks like we got somebody else, Wags. Appreciate you coming on and talking football. But,
yep. Have a good one.
And basketball. Yep. Thanks, man. We got Joe Schmetz. Looks like we got a sorry about that. Our first troll. We scored a touchdown against Penn State going into the half. We may put them away. Yeah, I think, Devin, going back to that, it's been that's been like that a couple times now where, again, we've been saying it quite a few times. Yeah, if we scored a touchdown, multiple times in multiple games, yep, we could have pulled away, but we've not been able to seem to do that. Even the Minnesota game, we pulled away late. Yeah, Wags, I got you off there for that. That was a mistake. Sorry about that. Yeah, what's weird about that is he actually he had a video of himself down there with the mullet. That should have been my first tell. But hey, if anybody else wants to jump on, feel free. Otherwise, we'll probably wrap it up. We've been going a while now. Just trying to think what else we can maybe hit on. Again, I can't remember if we talked about Purdue's defensive stats. I think we did, but maybe not. Through 5 games, run defense, a solid 22 in the country. Pass defense, 55. That's not terrible. Total defense is 25th, and scoring defense is 35. I mean, if Purdue continues to have numbers like those with the typical Purdue offense, I think we're going to be in really really good shape. Wags, how often do you do these streams? Once a week. So this is our second week doing this. Last week was pretty good. Had not done this before. Thought it'd be kind of cool to do. Again, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I travel for work. Probably 2 or 3 times a week, not a week, excuse me, a month for a couple of days a week. And I can travel quite a bit. So I'm in the hotel quite a bit, and I'm not with the family, obviously, not with the wife and kids. They're home in Indy. So I thought, why not do a Purdue podcast channel, which at first I started doing videos in my car a little bit while I was driving. I'm like, that's not very professional. Although I think the content was pretty decent, but wasn't very professional. So started doing videos at the hotel, just recording them, and then figured, why not try doing live and maybe get Purdue fans to come in and call in. And I thought it would kind of cool to do a sound off. And so far it's going pretty good. So will this continue? I don't know. We'll see. This is not, again, this is probably, again, not the most professional podcast, and we're maybe going to be a little sporadic here and there, but theoretically, I'd like to keep doing it every week if we can. You know what? Again, yeah. If somebody wants to jump on, feel free. Again, I'll probably, might take one more person if they want to jump on. If not, I'll probably wrap up with this. Kind of a nice little feature is the Big Ten. Big Ten schedule for the week. Obviously, with the Big Ten West being the way it is, every game is pivotal. We kind of talked about Iowa and Wisconsin. Who do we want to win? I think we all decided that we want Iowa to win based off the schedule Iowa has, and it seems like Illinois has got a cupcake schedule coming up. But Purdue has obviously at Maryland. Lines is -3 for Maryland. Nebraska plays at Rutgers. Nebraska is actually favored in that game by 2.5. That's a 7:00 game. I think Rutgers probably wins that. Let's see. Michigan, which I believe Big Ten kickoff, or not Big Ten, excuse me, Fox Big Noon is going to be there, which is funny. Michigan's favored 21.5. That should be a dominant Michigan win. I think Michigan, I haven't watched them, but I know the last 2 weeks they haven't looked, they played Iowa and Maryland, but I don't know if they've looked their best. Wisconsin plays at Northwestern, which they're favored by 10. This is actually a great week for Jim Leonard to get his feet wet coaching. They should absolutely destroy Northwestern and get some confidence. If they do not, that's going to be really bad news for Wisconsin. Devin says Illinois is the flavor of the week. I agree. I think this Iowa game is obviously really going to show how legit Illinois is, but even saying that, we all know Iowa's not exactly, very good, considering that offense, but theoretically the defense of Iowa should slow down Illinois, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, again, Iowa winning, I think, would be better just based off the schedule Illinois has. Illinois pretty much going forward, every single one of their tough games is at home. So that's, again, they have Iowa this week at home, Minnesota at home the following week, bye week, and then at Nebraska. They have 3 away games the rest of the year, and that's at Nebraska, at Michigan, which is a loss, and at Northwestern in the year, which they'll win. They got at home Purdue, Michigan State, Minnesota, and Iowa. So I think Big Ten Ted is on the show. If you are not subscribed to Big Ten Ted, definitely jump over to his channel. He's actually one of the inspirations for this channel. Ted does the kind of does a broader scope on all the Big Ten teams. Great content over there. If you haven't, follow him and subscribe to him to get a breakdown of the Big Ten in general. He's definitely, I think, one of the go-to guys when it comes to Big Ten football. Well, Ted, that'll be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Northwestern, box score wise, put up a decent fight against Penn State, but it looked, I didn't watch any of that game, but the highlights, and it looked like that game was in a monsoon. So, and as Purdue fans, we know how that can go. We've played in our share of monsoon, so I don't know if that indication of the score is anything 17-7. And I know they stopped Northwestern in the fourth quarter on the goal line, which would have made that game, I think, 17-14. But I don't know if we could take much from that game. But yeah, if Northwestern beats Wisconsin, I think Wisconsin is legitimately a terrible team. Ted, if you're still here, I'd be interested to see who your favorite in the West is right now. Who would, if you had a bet, if you had to choose a horse, which horse would you be putting your money on right now? And if you think Illinois is legit, we're just going over the schedule, and if Illinois can beat Iowa, man, I hate to say it, but I feel like Illinois could go 1-5, or 1-4, or 4-1 in the next 5 games. It's like it's a coin flip either way. I mean, Iowa, Minnesota, even at Nebraska, Michigan State, and Purdue, and Michigan. I mean, they legitimately could lose every single one of those games, but they also could win probably 5 of those games. It's just kind of a very weird schedule. And for their benefit, they have everybody at home except Nebraska and Michigan. But yeah, Devin, I mean, again, Purdue fan, somewhat of a Purdue optimist. Not somewhat, I am a Purdue optimist, and sometimes I have, colored glasses on, but I really do believe that Purdue has the best combination, as you say, offense and defense in the West. But again, this is like my 10th time saying it. Purdue has to show a level. They have to rise above what they have been on offense. They got to take it a step further. They're not scoring enough points, quite frankly. And really, we're not. We're kind of dinking and dunking down the field. Again, I think what was the stat for offense? It was something. Pass offense is 26th in the nation, but if you look at our passing yards per completion, we're 118th. So clearly, we're not getting separation down the field. Ted says it seems change every week. I agree. Yeah, I agree. If Illinois beats Iowa, they might be the favorite. Now, if Purdue beats Maryland, I think you would have to say Purdue and Illinois would be 1A and 1B. But the fact that Illinois got Purdue at home, the other problem about that too is, when is that game? Yeah, they play November 12th in Illinois. So if we go into Illinois, Illinois is clearly built like a running team of Wisconsin of old, if you will. Advantage Wisconsin. Or excuse me, not Wisconsin. Advantage Illinois if it's snowing, I would think. Yeah, I think I would have got Illinois, this week rather than later in the year. That's true. I mean, Devin, I think you're right. I think Purdue, again, honestly, I think Purdue is the most battle-tested Big Ten football team so far this year, unless I'm completely missing something. Maybe Penn State. Purdue and Penn State, I think, are the two most battle-tested Big Ten teams. They played each other. They both played each other, which I think they're probably two top 6 teams in the Big Ten. They both played a really good out-of-conference foe. I don't know. I guess Auburn's okay. I don't know if I would say that they're really good. Syracuse is clearly, better than okay, or at least, pretty solid team. They got a big test after this bye week coming up, but Purdue's only played one bad team. Well, FAU is iffy. I think FAU is actually a better team than the record shows. They have some talent on that team. They're just they're kind of like Purdue in some of their penalties, and they've apparently, like that UCF game, they actually moved the ball quite well, but they just kept turning it over in the red zone. But yeah, Purdue lost to a top 10 Penn State team. Syracuse is 22 now. Razor thin margins. Purdue's impressed me with improved running game defense slightly. Yeah, Purdue can run the ball. I think Purdue's offensive line's improved. They just lost Cam Craig, but honestly, I'm not sure Cam Craig's been 100% for the last 2 or 3 years. And I hate to say this, even though it stinks to lose him, but maybe his back was clearly bothering him, because this is not something that just popped out of nowhere. They've been talking about Cam Craig's back for like 2 or 3 years, and he's been limited and not able to play every snap. The fact that maybe that he's not in there anymore, and there's actually a healthy guy there that actually might improve it, which against Minnesota, that kind of actually happened. This line's improved. The running backs have improved. King Giroux's not going to play this week, it sounds like. But honestly, I don't know if we need him. And if we see, I'd be curious if everybody that's still here, you want to comment, if King Giroux, if Downing and Maccabee have games similar to the last 2 weeks against Minnesota and FAU, do you put King Giroux at 3rd on the depth chart coming back against Nebraska? Because I think I would. Honestly, I like the combination of Maccabee and Downing, and sprinkled in some King Giroux in there. I think King Giroux, though, is the best pass protector on the team, but I'm not sure you put King Giroux above those two right now. Yep, I agree. We need Graham back for sure, and it sounds like he is back this week. That's huge. And yeah, we touched this, Devin, we touched on this at the very, very beginning, but the way that, at least I think I mentioned it, the way that Purdue beat Minnesota, Purdue actually Minnesota. We actually beat them playing a brand of ball we've not really played in many years. We actually bullied them on the line of scrimmage, on the offense and defensive line of scrimmage. When's the last time you can say that about a Purdue playing in Minnesota or Wisconsin type or Iowa even? Well, I guess we have kind of bullied Iowa, but when's the last time Purdue's bullied Minnesota or Iowa? Not Iowa, I keep saying Iowa. Purdue, when's the last time Purdue's bullied Wisconsin or Minnesota on the line of scrimmage? It's been a long time. And there's no doubt that Purdue bullied Minnesota on the line of scrimmage, both on offense and defense. And honestly, again, I'll say it again. I think Mo Ibrahim obviously makes a little bit of difference. And maybe I should go a little bit further than that. But I'm not thinking, if Mo's in there, I'm not sure Mo's running for over 100 yards. Our rush defense this year is legit. As long as we're not playing a running quarterback like a Schrader or whatever, I think every running back we've played, we've played some good ones. Singleton, although that was his first game in his collegiate career. But the running back from Syracuse, we shut him down. I'm trying to think of his name. I can't remember. And then obviously we shut down Minnesota's running backs, who I don't think Minnesota running backs are, they're not that bad either. I think they had pretty good years last year. Yeah, Tucker. Thank you, Devin. Yeah, Tucker, they played against that terrible team this weekend that they had to go to 10-minute quarters in the second half. But yeah, I think Tucker had like 240 yards or something rushing. I mean, he's a good football player. But again, the two games that I'm keeping my eyes on most this weekend as a Big Ten fan is definitely the Purdue Maryland game for Big Ten West purposes, obviously, and then this Iowa Illinois game, which actually I didn't realize this is a night game for Illinois, which Illinois is having trouble filling that stadium. I saw I think they just sold, is it not 10,000? I think they're giving away 1,000 tickets to students. I think they had like 20,000 seats remaining this morning, which is pretty sad. I'm trying to see how many that stadium holds because, yeah, they had 20,000 tickets remaining this morning. So they're kind of the flavor of the week right now, but they could be legit. They hold about, same about Purdue. They hold about 60,670. So, yeah, they only had about 40,000 sold for this weekend. And I'd imagine, Iowa's already bought in quite a few of those tickets. So it'll be interesting to see. In fact, out of the 20,000 remaining, I wouldn't be surprised unless Iowa fans have completely given up on their football team, which, they might not be as excited to travel as much as they have been in the past. Although they say they claim that they're the best traveling fan base. I wouldn't be surprised if Iowa, eats up quite a few of those tickets. So maybe less of a home advantage than they would like. Yep, thank you, Devin. I've been looking for this stat. We've limited 3 NFL running backs to under 55 yards. Yes, we have. This defensive line, we all knew going into the season, at least anybody that follows Purdue, the depth was there, even though we had an injury to Jamar J. Lewis, and we lost George Karlaftis. The depth was there. We legitimately 3 deep at pretty much every defensive line spot. They've shown out that they can stop the run. And I'm not even sure who Maryland's running backs are. Yeah, we've gone 2.5 hours, so now we're getting to the point where I start talking even less and start looking stuff up. So this might not be the most entertaining stuff. I apologize. A long week. I'm really guilty. I do not know Maryland's players at all, besides Tua. Their leading rusher is Roman Himby, number 24. He's got 369 yards on the season, 3 touchdowns, 57 carries. I heard they had some stud receivers, but it looks like their leading receiver is, well, hold on, go back to running back. Antoine Littleton is the other running back, 39 carries, 267 yards, 6 touchdowns. So he might be the main guy. Jay-Sean Jones, I think I've heard that name, 253 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rakeem Jarrett, heard that name, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns. And a tight end, Corey Dykes, 216 yards, 1 touchdown. Jacob Copeland, wide receiver, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, they seem like they have 3 good receivers and a good tight end. Even the backup tight end, 148 yards, 1 touchdown. So, they appear to have some playmakers. Field goal kicker is apparently pretty good too, 7 out of 8. With 3, wow, they got a really good kicker, at least stats-wise. He's got only 1 field goal is from 30 to 39, 3 of 3 from 40 to 49, and 50 plus, he's 3 of 4 with a long, a long of 53. So that seems pretty legit. Thank you, Ted, coming in clutch with some names. Wide receivers good to the group, but no wide receiver in the top 10 bigs in receiving. Yeah, it seems like you said, just going off of what I just read, extremely balanced wide receiver group. And I would love to have, one of those guys on our team. I think we need another guy that can be closer to Charlie Jones stats wise. Next thing is, so Tua, he's passed for 1,400 yards, 75. Man, he's throwing 75% completion rating, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I know he got hurt against Michigan and Billy Edwards came in. He's got 2 touchdowns on the year. Tua's been sacked 4 times. Tua has rushed for 92 yards and 1 touchdown with only a long of 13 yards. So that's interesting. Tua's longest rush this season is 13 yards, averaging 3.4 yards a carry. So that's actually kind of surprising. He's rushed it those 27 times, which is actually 12 times behind Littleton. Again, I don't think they like rushing him, or if he does rush, he's one of those guys that goes out of bounds because they do not want him to take hits. I mean, he's 5'11", 200 pounds, which honestly, that's probably pretty generous, 200 pounds. Himby's a big back at 6 foot, 200 pounds. Looks like leading tackler is Bo Braid. I might be saying that. It might be Brady, but 1 interception and 40 tackles. Man. All right. Well, hey, this is a one more offer for somebody to come on if they want to. If they want to come on, feel free. The link is posted. Ted, if you want to come on, feel free. No pressure. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to. But if somebody wants to come on, feel free. Talk about anything. If not, again, you don't have to use the camera if you don't want to. You can just talk. If you don't want to come on, all good. Again, if nobody does, we'll probably wrap it up. I think I'm starting to lose my voice. Yeah, trolls incoming. Yeah, we'll do a better job of blocking that next time. I guess I'll have to edit that out on the Hey Devin, if you want, man, you can use your phone. You don't have to use your your headset. Again, if you just want to use your phone and talk into it like a normal normal phone call, that also works. Yeah, I'll have to watch. It's funny though, Wags. There was actually a dude there was actually a guy, or the video, there was actually a guy like sitting at his computer chair, but he had a mullet and he didn't look. I thought he'd actually be kind of funny putting him on if he truly was a Purdue fan. And then as soon as I put him on, it went to that image. I guess it could have been worse. But yeah, I wish you guys would have saw what he actually looked like. It was kind of funny. All right. Well, yeah, if we don't have anybody jumping on here in the next 2 minutes, I think we'll wrap it up. But again, if you want to jump on, feel free. The link is in the comments and the description. Again, you do not have to have a computer. You can use your phone, and you can talk into it like a normal phone. You can put it on speakerphone. You can use your webcam. You can do whatever you want. Again, my prediction for this weekend, I got Purdue going up to Maryland. This may seem a little Purdue gold-colored glasses, if you will, but I got Purdue winning 35-17. That might be too low. Maybe you have to say like 35-24, but my initial gut said 35-17. I've actually been pretty close on these games, except the Minnesota game. I said Purdue was going to win like 34-31, which that clearly wasn't the case. Two and a half hours. Sheesh. All right, one last chance. If anybody wants to come on and share their thoughts, feel free. I'm not sure I'm going to be on next week. Actually, Devin, great question. Oh, we got Big Ten Ted. Let's get Ted on. Oh, well, I'll try to find out.
We got Big Ten Ted.
What's up, Ted?
Oh, not much. Just wrapping up at work.
Hey, man, appreciate you coming on, man. Really like your channel. It's part of the reason why I honestly kind of did my own thing too, because I drive all the time for work, and like I said, I listen to more listen than watch, but while I'm driving, it's nice to get Big Ten coverage.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I see
That's
your
good
channel's
stuff.
growing. Yeah.
So, what's your score prediction for this weekend?
I went with my gut, and I don't know if I like it, but I said Purdue 35-17 Maryland, which that might be a homer prediction, but I've been pretty close. I've been pretty close this year actually on my predictions, except the Purdue I think Purdue Penn State game. I pretty much called it almost exactly until Purdue blew it at the end there, but I don't know. I think Purdue puts it together this weekend, but I could definitely see preseason prediction. I had Purdue losing this game.
Yeah, I think preseason, I put out a Big Ten predictions for all the marquee games of the year. Pretty sure I had 45-42 on this one earlier in the season because, passing game, right? You got O'Connell on one side, you got Talia on the other, and both teams had good wide receivers coming into this season. And both teams were, this was preseason, not now, obviously. Both teams have gotten better in the running game, I think, as the season has gone on. But yeah, this is not going to be 45-42. So I'll have my preview video on the channel tomorrow. And I'm like, we're not going to get 80 points in this game. Defenses are better, definitely for Purdue. And the running games are better than I think than everybody thought coming into the season. Like Maryland, obviously Corum rushed for what, 200, 250 against them. I forgot what the total number was at the end of the day. But if you look at early in that game, Maryland was making stops. Early in the second half, Maryland was making stops against Michigan. Obviously late third quarter, fourth quarter didn't of course pan out their way, but that's kind of the game for me, for Maryland, that kind of got me. Okay, these guys might be able to do something. I had them going 8-4 preseason, and I still think that they're kind of sitting right there at an 8-4 because Michigan State is just wow. Like what happened? Like
there's a couple teams like that. It's just like holy cow. How bad are some of these teams?
Oh my gosh! Like Michigan State, I can't even. I've said it a few times where it's just like I saw a tweet. I wish I remember who tweeted it. I can't remember, but it was a very simple tweet. Kenneth Walker got Mel Tucker paid. And it's like the simplest tweet, the shortest tweet, but it says so much. And I'm like, yes, that's it right there. Like, Walker masked so many issues for Michigan State like last season. The O-line was fine. And this year it's fine. But, it's not, what his ability to break tackles and get outside. Like their defense was bad last year. It's bad again this year. They got like 5 or 6 injuries. Half their defense is out. Like what was last year? 56-7 against Ohio State. They play this week. What are we looking? Buckeyes. What's the over under? 67.5 points.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But getting back to Maryland and everything, I think it's going to be competitive. But if you're the Terps, you got to do one thing. You got to lock in on Charlie Jones. Like he's the best receiver on the field, which preseason I probably would have guessed. Yeah, it's somebody from Maryland. It's Demas, it's Jarrett, it's somebody over there. They got so many guys over there. But man, every time I see Charlie Jones do what he does, the last 2 games maybe, not like the first 3 games or whatever it was. But every time I see Charlie Jones just go off, I can't help but think of all the Iowa fans. Like it creeps into my mind. And then it creeps into my mind for a few seconds. And then I think, well, yeah, he never would have done this in Iowa's offense. So, so if you're an Iowa fan and you're thinking, oh, man, it'd be so great to have Charlie Jones and even Tyrone Tracy. It's like, well, no, Brian Ferentz would know how to do this.
No, it's great. It's great. But hey, Ted, I appreciate you jumping on here real quick. I do have to wrap it up now. It's been,
all right.
2 hours. The wife's calling me. So
same.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate you jumping on and you got awesome content. So
all right. I appreciate it. We'll see you.
Thanks, man. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Appreciate you guys stopping by. We will see you next week. Boiler up. God bless.